Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome.
Hello. We're here to be spoopy.
Oh yeah.
A comfy ASMR to fall asleep to? Hell yeah, you know it.
Oh yeah. Well, Bellhound can fall asleep to anything when he has enough NyQuil, which, in my experience recently, he always does.
I mean, why wouldn't he?
Yeah. Well, doing shots of NyQuil is a man's romance. All right. So,
Alright.
obviously, this is the creepypasta reading. I have painstakingly, how do you say, curated about 10 or so creepypastas for us to read off to you, our loving and adoring audience.
Yeah, exactly. So if there's any you don't like, you can complain to him.
And I will promptly ignore it.
But yeah, let's just get this show on the road. I got the spoopy music, but also it's chill music, but it's the spoopy, so, you know. To not get too scary in here.
Oh my god, Fox, balance your audio.
I mean, it's not my fault that you speak so loud.
I
There
mean,
we go.
listen, I am simply trying to project so the people in the back can hear me.
Ah, of course, I apologize again. Thank you for giving a sub. I forgot to bring my alerts into here, though I probably shouldn't. Oh wait, my alerts are linked to my screens actually, so never mind. There will be no alerts. But it works. It works for this type of stream this is.
Isn't that an appropriate sub-streak?
Uh-huh. 13 months. Wow. Careful going outside with that number. But yeah, let me get the first one in here on the screen so you people can also read. Pastas. Okay. Okay.
Why don't you try it and find out, Bellhound? The glasses stay on.
He does have the stream open, so
Yeah. I'm
Anyway.
not sure what you were expecting, totally honest with you. I was reacting to chat.
Anyway, a website will show up on screen. Do not panic.
One of these days. There it is. At long last. Now.
I know you're very sudden. I apologize.
Now, this is an absolute certified hood classic in terms of creepypastas. I was wanting to do it for my own readings, but it's in forum format, so it's a little bit awkward for a single person to be reading. But since I have my lovely assistant here...
That's me! Even though this is my channel, I am the assistant.
Yeah, it's Kuriko's stream and channel, and she's putting in pretty much all of the work. But this is my show.
Yeah, it's true. I can confirm.
But anyway, since we have the two of us, I figured now was an ideal time, and since I love this story so much, you know, why not start off strong?
Let's go. So this is called Candle Cove. So let's scroll down. So where does it start? Here or here?
It starts. You'll see the like forum posts.
Okay, yeah, Candle Cove, Creepypasta, and Nostalgia Forum, television, that?
Yeah.
Alright. So, which one do you want to be?
Well, I mean, there's, I think, like 4 or 5 posters, so I think we should just swap off.
Alright.
And also, considering that the image on your stream isn't changing at all, I don't think that it really matters.
Oh, why is it doing that?
It's not a stream
I know
without
why,
stuff.
because I didn't. Okay, yeah, no, I did it. Sorry, I did it wrong because I used browser source for the background. And
Oh no.
I forgot I need to use window for this.
Shame.
So just
Shameful.
1 second, I will fix that.
The real horror was the scuff all along.
All along.
The only thing worse than one VTuber's scuff is another VTuber's scuff infecting the first. And since I'm not streaming, it's all on you, Fox.
Huh. Okay, that window capture doesn't work. Why do I have so many window captures added? And none of them work. Well, time to add a new one. Oh wait, that worked. Why did it take so long to show up?
It's Fox talking shit about me not knowing how to use OBS. Meanwhile, at least mine is tidy. This lady with like 30 browser sources and window captures in a single scene.
No, I only have 2.
Uh-huh. It's okay. I believe you.
Alright, I adjust this now. And there we go. Once again, something will show up on the screen. Broop.
Huzzah!
Huzzah!
Hold on, try scrolling up and down real quick. Okay, good. Now the lovely victims in the audience can read along as well.
Yeah! So do you want to start or should I start?
I'll start.
Alright.
Does anyone remember this kids show? It was called Candle Cove, and I must have been 6 or 7. I never found reference to it anywhere, so I think it was on a local station around 1971 or 1972. I lived in Ironton at the time. I don't remember which station, but I do remember it was on at a weird time, like 4 p.m.
It seems really familiar to me. I grew up outside of Ashland and was 9 years old in 72. Candle Cove. Was it about pirates? I remember a pirate marionette at the mouth of a cave talking to a little girl.
Yes! Okay, I'm not crazy. I remember Pirate Percy. I was always kind of scared of him. He looked like he was built from parts of other dolls. Real low budget. His head was an old porcelain baby doll. Looked like an antique that didn't belong on his body. I don't remember what station this was. I don't think it was WTSF though.
Sorry to resurrect this old thread, but I know exactly what show you mean, Skyshale. I think Candle Cove ran for only a couple months in 71, not 72. I was 12 and I watched it a few times with my brother. It was channel 58, whatever station that was. My mom would let me switch to it after the news. Let me see what I remember. It took place in Candle Cove, and it was about a little girl who imagined herself to be friends with pirates. The pirate ship was called the Laughingstock, and Pirate Percy wasn't a very good pirate because he got scared too easily. And there was calliope music constantly playing. Don't remember the girl's name. Janice or Jade or something. I think it was Janice.
Thank you, Jaren. Memories flooded back when you mentioned the Laughingstock in Channel 58. I remember the bow of the ship was a wooden smiling face with the lower jaw submerged. It looked like it was swallowing the sea, and it had that awful Ed Wynn voice and laugh. I especially remember how jarring it was when they switched from the wooden/plastic model to the foam puppet version of the head that talked.
I remember now too. Do you remember this part, Skyshell? You have to go inside.
Ugh, Mike, I got a chill reading that. Yes, I remember. That's what the ship always told Percy when there was a spooky place he had to go in, like a cave or a dark room where the treasure was, and the camera would push in on Laughingstock's face with each pause. You have to go inside. With his two eyes askew and that flopping foam jaw and the fishing line that opened and closed it. Ugh. Just looks so cheap and awful. You guys remember the villain? He had a face that was just a handlebar mustache above really tall, narrow teeth.
I honestly thought the villain was Pirate Percy. I was about 5 when this show was on. Nightmare fuel.
That wasn't the villain, the puppet with the mustache. That was the villain's sidekick, Horace Horrible. He had a monocle too, but it was on top of the mustache. I used to think that meant he only had one eye. But yeah, the villain was another marionette. Skin Taker. I can't believe what they let us watch back then.
Jesus H. Christ, the Skin Taker. What kind of a kids show were we watching? I seriously could not look at the screen when the Skin Taker showed up. He used to send that out of nowhere on his strings. Just a dirty skeleton wearing that brown top hat and cape. And his glass eyes that were too big for his skull. Christ almighty.
Wasn't his top hat and cloak all sewn up crazily? Was that supposed to be children's skin?
Yeah, I think so. Remember his mouth didn't open and close. His jaw just slid back and forth. I remember the little girl said, "Why does your mouth move like that?" And the Skin Taker didn't look at the girl but at the camera and said, "To grind your skin."
I'm so relieved that other people remember this terrible show. I used to have this awful memory, the bad dream where the opening jingle ended, the show faded in from black, and all the characters were there, but the camera was just cutting to each of their faces, and they were just screaming. And the puppets and marionettes were flailing spastically, and all screaming. The girl was just moaning and crying like she had been through hours of this. I woke up many times from that nightmare. I used to wet the bed when I had it.
I don't think that was a dream. I remember that. I remember that was an episode.
No. Not possible. There was no plot or anything. I mean, literally just standing in place crying and screaming for the whole show.
Maybe I'm manufacturing the memory because you said that, but I swear to God I remember saying what you described. They just screamed.
Oh god. Yes, the little girl, Janice, I remember seeing her shake, and the Skin Taker screaming through his gnashing teeth, his jaw careening so wildly I thought it would come off its wire hinges. I turned it off and it was the last time I watched. I ran to tell my brother and we didn't have the courage to turn it back on.
I visited my mom today at the nursing home. I asked her about when I was little in the early 70s, when I was 8 or 9, and if you remember a kids show, Cove. She said she was surprised I could remember that, and I asked why. And she said, "Because I used to think it was so strange that you said, 'I'm gonna go watch Cove now, Mom,' and then you will turn the TV to static and just watch dead air for 30 minutes. You had a big imagination with your little parrot show." Is that how it ends?
There it is. Yep, that's the twist.
Wow.
So it's slightly fridge horror, but I don't know. It's such a classic. I love that story.
Yeah,
so
no,
much.
I love it. I love stuff like this. Which is why I wanted you to pick this, because I never know where to look.
Well, I mean, you're on a website with literally nothing but these. Although Uh, so I mentioned it earlier, but a lot of these, especially the more recently published ones, are, I mean, they're perfectly fine stories, but to call them creepypastas might be a little bit generous. It's just like narratively, yeah, they're fine, but they don't even like kind of wig me out a little bit. Like, granted,
Uh,
I don't react much to horror, as you might imagine, but it's there's got to be something.
yeah, you like the to make it fun, like the twist at the end that you're like, oh, oh.
Yeah.
Like I really used to like also when people, I don't know if people, I haven't seen people do them anymore. It was popular for a while, I think. When people will, create like a Twitter account, I kind of live tweet like a story, and they would put photos and sometimes videos. And some of them were really good. Some were trash. Some were really good.
Yeah, that's. They used to be a lot more of a thing. Yeah, you're right. I didn't see too many of those, but yeah, that was just the kind of like live story format.
Yeah,
Uh,
the one I remember most kind of clearly is one of a guy just saying like how he went to a hotel in like some city, and like he will just tweet about like weird things going on, and like how people will greet him strangely, and at the end, I mean, it was kind of like skinwalkers or something, or like parallel dimension, like mirror dimension, some kind of stuff like that.
huh.
But yeah, it was like really well executed, in my opinion. It was really nice. And like at the end, I was like, ooh, creepy.
I want to go to the Pod Person Hotel.
Because like the guy will like show, because the guy will also like post photos and and like, and the fact that they tweeted like acting it out, it just, I don't know, it just gives it like a nice feel of like, oh, this is happening, especially
Yeah.
when you catch them while they're like quote unquote happening.
Yeah, when you're like in the middle, well, not in the middle of the live tweets, but like catching it as it's coming out. It's like,
Yeah.
you know, a newly broadcasted episode almost.
Uh-huh. So yeah, maybe I'll find that. But
Yeah,
yeah,
well,
so mhm.
now that you spoiled the ending for me, no, I'm pretty sure if it was on Twitter, just like seeing the first post that I would see would just spoil it for me. But whatever.
Yeah,
I
no,
do
but I'm pretty sure.
use.
I mean, it must be archived somewhere. I will just need to find a way to like find it to search for
That's a
it.
good point.
But yeah, if I find it,
Yeah,
I'll send it. I really like that one.
bet. Speaking of sending, I have sent you the second one. Uh,
Yes.
this
Here it
one,
is.
I mentioned off stream that this one, well, it has three parts, but we're going to only read the first one. The first one's pretty good. The second one's like all right, and then the third one just completely fucks the entire story. So, and thankfully, the first part has a good stopping point where it's like literally the story could have ended there, and I would have been perfectly fine. So, you know,
Excellent. NoEnd House. Where does this start? Part 1.
yeah.
So how do we divide this?
I think just like every other paragraph, and then usually these are pretty apparent who's talking, but if not, I mean, uh, if that's not the case, then it probably doesn't matter which one of us is talking.
All right,
So,
so who starts?
you.
For those are like one-liners. Should I leave the line and then the following paragraph, or just
Might
the
as
line?
well.
Yeah, because I mean, like, just the line and then change. It's like, oh.
Yeah, so, yeah.
All right.
You do 2, I'll do 2, etc.
Let me start by saying that Peter Terry was addicted to heroin. We were friends in college and continue to be after I graduated. Notice that I said I. He dropped out after 2 years of barely cutting it. After I moved out of the dorms and into a small apartment, I didn't see Peter as much. We would talk online every now and then. AIM was king in pre-Facebook years. There was a period where he wasn't online for about 5 weeks straight. I wasn't worried. He was a pretty notorious flake and drug addict, so I assumed he just stopped caring. Then one night I saw him log on. Before I could initiate a conversation, he sent me a message.
David, man, we need to talk. That was when he told me about the NoEnd House. It got that name because no one had ever reached the final exit. The rules were pretty simple and cliche. Reach the final room of the building and you win $500. There were 9 rooms in all. The house was located outside the city, roughly 4 miles from my house. Apparently, Peter had tried and failed. He was a heroin and who knows what the fuck addict, so I figured the drugs got the best of him and he wigged out a paper ghost or something. He told me it would be too much for anyone, that it was unnatural.
I didn't believe him. I told him I would check it out the next night, and no matter how hard he tried to convince me otherwise, 500 sounded too good to be true. I had to go. I set out the following night. When I arrived, I immediately noticed something strange about the building. Have you ever seen or read something that shouldn't be scary, but for some reason a chill crawls up your spine? I walked towards the building and the feeling of uneasiness only intensified as I opened the front door.
My heart slowed and I let a relieved sigh leave me as I entered. The room looked like a normal hotel lobby decorated for Halloween. A sign was posted in place of a worker. It read, "Room 1, this way. 8 more to follow. Reach the end and you win." I chuckled and made my way to the first door. The first area was almost laughable. The decor resembled the Halloween aisle of a Kmart, complete with sheet ghosts and animatronic zombies that gave a static growl when you passed by. At the end was an exit. It was the only door beside the one I had entered through. I brushed through the fake spider webs and headed for the second room.
I was greeted by fog as I opened the door to room 2. The room definitely upped the ante in terms of technology. Not only was there a fog machine, but a bat hung from the ceiling and flew in a circle. Scary. They seem to have a Halloween soundtrack that one will find in a 99-cent store on loop somewhere in the room. I didn't see a stereo, but I guess they must have used a PA system. I step over a few toy rats that wheel around and walk with a puffed chest across to the next area. I reached for the doorknob and my heart sank to my knees. I did not want to open that door. A feeling of dread hit me so hard I could barely even think. Logic overtook me after a few terrifying moments, and I shook it off and entered the next room.
Room 3 is when things began to change. On the surface, it looked like a normal room. There was a chair in the middle of the wood-paneled floor. A single lamp in the corner did a poor job of lighting the area, casting a few shadows across the floor and walls. That was the problem. Shadows. Plural.
With the exception of the chairs, there were others. I had barely walked in the door and I was already terrified. It was at that moment that I knew something wasn't right. I didn't even think as I automatically tried to open the door I came through. It was locked from the other side. That set me off. Was someone locking the doors as I progressed? There was no way. I would have heard them. Was it a mechanical lock that said automatically? Maybe. But I was too scared to really think. I turned back to the room and the shadows were gone. The chair's shadow remained, but the others were gone. I slowly began to walk. I used to hallucinate when I was a kid, so I wrote off the shadows as a figment of my imagination. I began to feel better as I made it to the halfway point of the room. I looked down as I took my steps, and that's when I saw it.
Or didn't see it. My shadow wasn't there. I didn't have time to scream. I ran as fast as I could to the other door and flung myself without thinking into the room beyond. The fourth room was possibly the most disturbing. As I closed the door, all light seemed to be sucked out and put back into the previous room. I stood there, surrounded by darkness, not able to move. I'm not afraid of the dark and never have been, but I was absolutely terrified. All sight had left me. I held my hand in front of my face, and if I didn't know what I was doing, I would never have been able to tell. Darkness doesn't describe it. I couldn't hear anything. It was dead silence. When you're in a soundproof room, you can still hear yourself breathing. You can hear yourself being alive.
I couldn't. I began to stumble forward after a few moments, my rapidly beating heart the only thing I could feel. There was no door in sight. Wasn't even sure there was one this time. The silence wasn't broken by a low hum. I felt Oh, go ahead.
Sorry.
It's fine.
Go ahead.
I felt something behind me. I spun around wildly but could barely even see my nose. I knew it was there though. Regardless of how dark it was, I knew something was there. The hum grew louder, closer. It seemed to surround me, but I knew whatever was causing the noise was in front of me, inching closer. I took a step back. I had never felt that kind of fear. I can't really describe true fear. I wasn't even scared I was going to die. I was scared of what the alternative was. I was afraid of what this thing had in store for me. Then the lights flashed for a second and I saw it.
Nothing. I saw nothing, and I know I saw nothing there. The room was again plunged into darkness, and the hum became a wild screech. I screamed in protest. I couldn't hear this goddamn sound for another minute. I ran backwards, away from the noise, and fumbled for the door handle. I turned and fell into room 5. Before I describe room 5, you have to understand something. I'm not a drug addict. I have had no history of drug abuse or any sort of psychosis short of the childhood hallucinations I mentioned earlier, and those were only when I was just really tired or just waking up. I entered the NoEnd House with a clear head.
After falling in from the previous room, my view of room 5 was from my back, looking up at the ceiling. What I saw didn't scare me. It simply surprised me. Trees had grown into the room and towered above my head. The ceilings in this room were taller than the others, which made me think I was in the center of the house. I got up off the floor, dusted myself off, and took a look around. It was definitely the biggest room of them all. I couldn't even see the door from where I was. Various brush and trees must have blocked my line of sight with the exit. Up to this point, I figured the rooms were going to get scarier. But this was a paradise compared to the last room. I also assumed whatever was in room 4 stayed back there. I was incredibly wrong.
As I made my way deeper into the room, I began to hear what one would hear if they were in a forest. Chirping bugs and the occasional flap of birds seemed to be my only company in this room. That was the thing that bothered me the most. I'd heard the bugs and other animals, but I didn't see any of them. I began to wonder how big this house was. From the outside, when I first walked up to it, it looked like a regular house. It was definitely on the bigger side, but this was almost like a full forest in here. The canopy covered my view of the ceiling, but I assumed it was still there, however high it was. I couldn't see any walls either. The only way I knew I was still inside was the floor matched the other rooms, the standard dark wood paneling. I kept walking, hoping that the next tree I passed would reveal the door. After a few moments of walking, I felt a mosquito fly onto my arm. I shook it off and kept going. A second later, I felt about 10 more land on my skin at different places. I felt them crawl up and down my arms and legs and a few made their way across my face. I flailed wildly to get them all off, but they just kept crawling. I looked down and let out a muffled scream. More of a whimper, to be honest. I didn't see a single bug. Not one bug was on me, but I could feel them crawl. I heard them fly by my face and sting my skin, but I couldn't see a single one. I dropped to the ground and began to roll wildly. I was desperate. I hated bugs, especially ones I couldn't see or touch. But these bugs could touch me, and they were everywhere.
Oh no. I began to crawl. I had no idea where I was going. The entrance was nowhere in sight, and I still hadn't even seen the exit. So I just crawled, my skin wriggling with the presence of those phantom bugs. After what seemed like hours, I found the door. I grabbed the nearest tree and propped myself up, mindlessly slapping my arms and legs to no avail. I tried to run, but I couldn't. My body was exhausted from crawling and dealing with whatever it was that was on me. I took a few shaky steps to the door, grabbing each tree on the way for support. It was only a few feet away when I heard it, the low hum from before. It was coming from the next room and it was deeper. I could almost feel it inside my body, like when you stand next to an amp at a concert. The feeling of the bugs on me lessened as the hum grew louder. As I placed my hand on the doorknob, the bugs were completely gone, but I couldn't bring myself to turn the knob. I knew that if I let go, the bugs would return and there was no way I would make it back to room 4. I just stood there, my head pressed against the door marked 6, and my hand shakily grasping the knob. The hum was so loud I couldn't even hear myself pretend to think. There was nothing I could do but move on. Room 6 was next, and room 6 was hell.
I closed the door behind me, my eyes held shut and my ears ringing. The hum was surrounding me. As the door clicked into place, the hum was gone. I opened my eyes in surprise and the door I had shut was gone. It was just a wall now. I looked around in shock. The room was identical to room 3, the same chair and lamp, but with the correct amount of shadows this time. The only real difference was that there was no exit door and the one I came in through was gone. As I said before, I had no previous issues in terms of mental instability, but at that moment, I fell into what I now know was insanity. I didn't scream. I didn't make a sound. At first, I scratched softly. The wall was tough, but I knew the door was there somewhere. I just knew it was. I scratched at where the doorknob was. I clawed at the wall frantically with both hands, my nails being filed down to the skin against the wood. I fell silently to my knees, the only sound in the room the incessant scratching against the wall. I knew it was there. The door was there. I knew it was just there. I knew if I could just get past this wall.
Are you alright? I jumped off the ground and spun in one motion. I leaned against the wall behind me and I saw what it was that spoke to me. To this day, I regret ever turning around. There was a little girl. She was wearing a soft, white dress that went down to her ankles. She had long blonde hair to the middle of her back and white skin and blue eyes. She was the most frightening thing I had ever seen. And I know that nothing in my life will ever be as unnerving as what I saw in her. While looking at her, I saw something else. Where she stood, I saw what looked like a man's body, only larger than normal and covered in hair. He was naked from head to toe, but his head was not human and his toes were hooves. It wasn't the devil, but at that moment it might as well have been. The form had the head of a ram and the snout of a wolf.
It was horrifying, and it was synonymous with the little girl in front of me. They were the same form. I can't really describe it, but I saw them at the same time. They shared the same spot in that room, but it was like looking at two separate dimensions. When I saw the girl, I saw the form, and when I saw the form, I saw the girl. I couldn't speak. I could barely even see. My mind was revolting against what it was attempting to process. I had been scared before in my life, but I had never been more scared than when I was trapped in the fourth room. But that was before room 6. I just stood there, staring at whatever it was that spoke to me. There was no exit. I was trapped in here with it. And then it spoke again. That's you.
David, you should have listened.
When it spoke, I heard the words of the little girl, but the other form spoke through my mind in a voice I won't attempt to describe. There was no other sound. The voice just kept repeating that sentence over and over in my mind, and I agreed. I didn't know what to do. I was slipping into madness, yet couldn't take my eyes off what was in front of me. I dropped to the floor. I thought I had passed out, but the room wouldn't let me. I just wanted it to end. I was on my side, my eyes wide open, and the form staring down at me. Scurrying across the floor in front of me was one of the battery-powered rats from the second room.
The house was toying with me. But for some reason, seeing that rat pulled my mind back from whatever depths it was headed, and I looked around the room. I was getting out of there. I was determined to get out of that house and leave and never think about this place again. I knew this room was hell, and I wasn't ready to take up a residency. At first, it was just my eyes that moved. I searched the walls for any kind of opening. The room wasn't that big, so it didn't take long to soak up the entire layout. The demon still taunted me, the voice roaring louder as the form stayed rooted where it stood. I placed my hand on the floor, lifted myself up to all four, and turned to scan the wall behind me. Then I saw something I couldn't believe. The form was now right at my back, whispering into my mind how I shouldn't have come. I felt its breath on the back of my neck, but I refused to turn around. A large rectangle was scratched into the wood, with a small dent chipped away in the center of it. Right in front of my eyes, I saw the large 7 I had mindlessly etched into the wall. I knew what it was. Room 7 was just beyond that wall where room 5 was moments ago.
I don't know how I had done it. Maybe it was just my state of mind at the time. But I had created the door. I knew I had. In my madness, I had scratched into the wall what I had needed the most. An exit to the next room. Room 7 was close. I knew the demon was right behind me, but for some reason, it couldn't touch me. I closed my eyes and placed both hands on the large 7 in front of me. I pushed. I pushed as hard as I could. The demon was now screaming in my ear. It told me I was never leaving. It told me that this was the end, but I wasn't going to die. I was going to live in there in room 6 with it. I wasn't. I pushed and screamed at the top of my lungs. I knew I was going to push through the wall eventually. I clenched my eyes shut and screamed, and the demon was gone. I was left in silence. I turned around slowly and was greeted by the room as it was when I entered. Just a chair and a lamp. I couldn't believe it, but I didn't have time to. I couldn't believe it, but I didn't have time to. Well. I turned back to the 7 and jumped back slightly. What I saw was a door. It wasn't the one I had scratched in, but a regular door with a large 7 on it. My whole body was shaking. It took me a while to turn the knob. I just stood there for a while, staring at the door. I couldn't stay in room 6. I couldn't. But if this was only room 6, I couldn't imagine what 7 had in store. I must have stood there for an hour, just staring at the 7. Finally, with a deep breath, I twisted the knob and entered the door to room 7.
I stumbled through the door mentally exhausted and physically weak. The door behind me closed and I realized where I was. I was outside. Not outside like room 5, but actually outside. My eyes stung. I wanted to cry. I fell to my knees and tried, but I couldn't. I was finally out of that hell. I didn't even care about the price that was promised. I turned and saw that the door I just went through was the entrance. I walked to my car and drove home, thinking of how nice a shower sounded. As I pulled up to my house, I felt uneasy. The joy of leaving NoEnd House had faded and dread was slowly building in my stomach. I shook it off as received from the house and made my way to the front door. I entered and immediately went up to my room. There on my bed was my cat, Baskerville. He was the first living thing I had seen all night and I reached to pet him. He hissed and swiped at my hand. I recoiled in shock, as he had never acted like that. I thought, whatever, he's an old cat. I jumped in the shower and got ready for what I was expecting to be a sleepless night.
Fun fact, one of my old bosses' last name was Baskerville.
Oh.
Hold on. After my shower, I went to the kitchen to make something to eat. I descended the stairs and turned into the family room. What I saw would be forever burned into my mind, however. My parents, lying on the ground, naked and covered in blood. They were mutilated to near unidentifiable states. Their limbs were removed and placed next to their bodies, and their heads were placed on their chests, facing me. The most unsettling part was their expressions. They were smiling, as though they were happy to see me. I vomited and sobbed there in the family room. I didn't know what had happened. They didn't even live with me at the time. I was a mess. Then I saw it. A door that was never there before. A door with a large 8 scrawled on it in blood. I was still in the house. I was standing in my family room, but I was in room 7. The faces of my parents smiled wider as I realized this. They weren't my parents. They couldn't be. But they looked exactly like them. The door marked 8 was across the room, behind the mutilated bodies in front of me. I knew I had to move on, but at that moment, I gave up. The smiling faces tore into my mind. They grounded me where I stood. I vomited again and nearly collapsed. Then the hum returned. It was louder than ever and filled the house and shook the walls. The hum compelled me to walk.
I began to walk slowly, making my way closer to the door and the bodies. I could barely stand, let alone walk, and the closer I got to my parents, the closer I came to suicide. The walls were now shaking so hard it seemed as though they were going to crumble, but still the faces smiled at me. As I inched closer, their eyes followed me. I was now between the two bodies, a few feet away from the door. The dismembered hands clawed their way across the carpet towards me, all while the faces continued to stare. New terror washed over me and I walked faster. I didn't want to hear them speak. I didn't want the voices to match those of my parents. They began to open their mouths and the hands were inches from my feet. In a dash of desperation, I lunged toward the door, threw it open, and slammed it behind me. Room 8. I was done. After what I had just experienced, I knew there wasn't anything else this fucking house could throw at me that I couldn't live through. There was nothing short of the fires of hell that I wasn't ready for. Unfortunately, I underestimated the abilities of NoEnd House. Unfortunately, things got more disturbing, more terrifying, and more unspeakable in room 8.
I still have trouble believing what I saw in room 8. Again, the room was a carbon copy of rooms 3 and 6, but sitting in the usually empty chair was a man. After a few seconds of disbelief, my mind finally accepted the fact that the man sitting in the chair was me. Not someone who looked like me. It was David Williams. I got closer. I had to get a better look even though I was sure of it. He looked up at me, and I noticed tears in his eyes. Please. Please don't do it. Please, don't hurt me.
What? I asked. Who are you? I'm not going to hurt you.
Yes, you are. He was sobbing now. You're going to hurt me, and I don't want you to. He sat in the chair with his legs up, began rocking back and forth. It was actually pretty pathetic looking, especially because he was me, identical in every way.
Listen, who are you? I was now only a few feet from my doppelganger. It was the weirdest experience yet, standing there talking to myself. I wasn't scared, but I would be soon. Why are you...
You're going to hurt me. You're going to hurt me. If you want to leave, you're going to hurt me.
Why are you saying this? Just calm down, alright? Let's try and figure this. And then I saw it. The David sitting down was wearing the same clothes as me, except for a small red patch on his shirt embroidered with the number 9.
You're going to hurt me. You're going to hurt me. You're going to hurt me. Please don't. You're going to hurt me.
My eyes didn't leave that small number on his chest. I knew exactly what it was. The first few doors were plain and simple, but after a while they got a little more ambiguous. 7 was scratched into the wall, but by my own hands, and it was marking blood above the bodies of my parents. But 9, this number wasn't a person, a living person. Worse still, it wasn't a person that looked exactly like me. David? I had to ask.
Yes. You're going to hurt me. You're going to hurt me. He continued to sob and rock. He answered to David. He was me, right down to the voice. But that 9. I paced around for a few minutes while he sobbed in his chair. The room had no door, and similarly to room 6, the room that I came through was gone. For some reason, I assumed that scratching would get me nowhere this time. I studied the walls and the floor around the chair, sticking my head underneath and seeing if anything was below. Unfortunately, there was. Below the chair was a knife. Attached was a tag that read, "To David, from management." The feeling in my stomach as I read that tag was something sinister. I wanted to throw up, and the last thing I wanted to do was remove that knife from under that chair. The other David was still sobbing uncontrollably. My mind was spinning into an attic of unanswerable questions. Who put this here? How did they get my name? Not to mention the fact that as I knelt on the cold wood floor, I also sat in that chair, sobbing in protest of being hurt by myself. It was all too much to process. The house and the management that had been playing with me this whole time. My thoughts for some reason turned to Peter and whether or not he got this far. If he did, if he met a Peter Terry sobbing in this very chair, rocking back and forth, I shook those thoughts out of my head. They didn't matter. I took the knife from under the chair and immediately the other David went quiet. "David," he said in my voice, "what do you think you're going to do?"
I lifted myself from the ground and clenched the knife in my hand. I'm going to get out of here. David was still sitting in the chair, though he was very calm now. He looked up at me with a slight grin. I couldn't tell if he was going to laugh or strangle me. Slowly, he got up from the chair and stood, facing me. It was uncanny. His height and even the way he stood matched mine. I felt the rubber hilt of the knife in my hand and gripped it tighter. I don't know what I was planning on doing with it, but I had a feeling I was going to need it.
"Now," his voice was slightly deeper than my own, "I'm going to hurt you. I'm going to hurt you, and I'm going to keep you here."
I didn't respond. I just lunged and tackled him to the ground. I had mounted him and looked down, knife poised and ready. He looked up at me, terrified. It was like I was looking in a mirror. Then the hum returned, low and distant, though I still felt it deep in my body. David looked up at me as I looked down at myself. The hum was getting louder, and I felt something inside me snap. With one motion, I slammed the knife into the patch on his chest and ripped down. Blackness fell on the room, and I was falling.
The darkness around me was like nothing I had experienced up to that point. Room 4 was dark, but it didn't come close to what was completely engulfing me. I wasn't even sure if I was falling after a while. I felt weightless, covered in dark. Then a deep sadness came over me. I felt lost, depressed, and suicidal. The sight of my parents entered my mind. I knew it wasn't real, but I had seen it, and the mind has trouble differentiating between what is real and what isn't. The sadness only deepened. I was in room 9 for what seemed like days. The final room. And that's exactly what it was. The end. NoEnd House had an end, and I had reached it. At that moment, I gave up. I knew that I would be in that in-between state forever, accompanied by nothing but darkness. Not even the hum was there to keep me sane. I had lost all senses. I couldn't feel myself. I couldn't hear anything. Sight was completely useless here. I searched for a taste in my mouth and found nothing. I felt disembodied and completely lost. I knew where I was. This was hell. 9 room was hell. Room 9 was hell. Then it happened. A light. One of those stereotypical lights at the end of the tunnel. I felt the ground come up from below me and I was standing. After a moment or two of gathering my thoughts and senses, I slowly walked toward that light.
As I approached the light, it took form. It was a vertical slit down the side of an unmarked door. I slowly walked through the door and found myself back where I started, the lobby of NoEnd House. It was exactly how I left it, still empty, still decorated with childish Halloween decorations. After everything that had happened that night, I was still wary of where I was. After a few moments of normalcy, I looked around the place trying to find anything different. On the desk was a plain white envelope with my name handwritten on it. Immensely curious yet still cautious, I mustered up the courage to open the envelope. Inside was a letter, again handwritten. David Williams, congratulations! You have made it to the end of NoEnd House. Please accept this prize as a token of great achievement. Yours forever, Management. With the letter were $500 bills.
I couldn't stop laughing. I laughed for what seemed like hours. I laughed as I walked out to my car, and I laughed as I drove home. I laughed as I pulled into my driveway. I laughed as I opened my front door to my house, and I laughed as I saw the small 10 etched into the wood.
Oh.
Yeah!
Oh!
And that's part 1. By which I mean,
the only one.
Part.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy how they only wrote one part to that story.
Unbelievable. You know, that was insane. That was amazing. That was like actually very well written.
Yeah, it's this is the word I'm looking for. It's very evocative.
Yeah.
The bit with the parents was a little bit more like explicit than I would have expected, to be totally honest. But you know, even then, usually things that like outright describe like, you know, gory, what have you, are a little lower quality. This one actually made it work really well.
Yeah. It was like, eee.
Yeah, I mean, okay, yeah, some of the bits, mostly just the parents, were a bit too much, yeah. But still, it was too much in a way that didn't really overstay its welcome. Like, it was like a lot, but it wasn't like, it didn't take over the story. It was just like, okay, this is gross, I don't want to be here anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, let me just look up because I forgot to add chat to the screen.
No. Yeah, that would probably help a little.
Yeah, no, it's just that I'm used to having like chat by default on my screen since I have like everything together. Uh, 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 uh.
While you're doing that, I'll send
Yeah.
you the next one.
Just wanna find a way to do it like easily.
So while we wait, I'll actually, I actually have a little bit of a method in the order that I'm sending these in. That one was really good, but with how it dragged on towards the end, I actually couldn't remember if it was actually as good as I remembered the first part being by the end of it, which says a lot about just how utterly the other parts fuck it over. But I'm sending you in kind of like alternating order of ones I know are really good, and then ones are like good, but like is it, the how they're received might vary. But this next one, if you're keeping track, is one that I at least know is really good. Prime to treat creepypastas as fodder for campaign books. Yeah, you know, that's fair, honestly. I mean, a good horror campaign, I feel, would be pretty hard to do. So, might as well take inspiration where you can. I can't believe Kudoko's fucking dead.
Yeah, I just died.
Alas, died along with chat.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I just wanna.
Oh no! Anyway. Alright, well, now that this is my stream in actuality and not just as a joke, how you doing, guys? Like World of Darkness Hunter campaign where someone trolls the net for stories like this, but some are real. Oh, good, I made cat leave. There's only room for
Okay.
one cat in this town, unlucky cat, and that's Kitty McCatface,
Yeah.
who still doesn't have a stream name, I don't think.
No. She does not have it to her name because people can't choose decent names.
I mean, I think Kitty McCatface is an excellent name, but apparently nobody else agrees with me, so for that exact reason, I'm going to continue using it probably even after an actual name is chosen. Kudu Cat. I mean, Kudu Cat is an alright name, sure. Yeah, no, Bellhound. We're not naming the cat Sneed.
We are most definitely not.
I would play Spanish Flea, but that'd get you DMCA'd. So instead, I could just say it, but I have the channel points, so why not? One day Kuroko will come back with the milk, guys.
Maybe.
One day. If I believe hard enough.
Yeah, I'm just trying to. I don't want to use my regular chat because I feel it doesn't fit. But I don't remember how to do the thing to add like a chat with just a text and like make the background transparent.
That would be like a whole thing with the... Because you use stream elements, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd have to like go into like their... What's it called? Overlay editor and mess with it.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm trying to do because that's the only way I found how to do it. But I know it can be done differently or like faster. I just can't find anyone explaining it because I don't remember.
Hold on. Oh, I'd help you, but my chat overlay is like incredibly bare bones.
It's fine.
I miss Kuruko, guys. Sometimes it's like I can still hear her voice. I miss Kuruko. Ooh. Oh, I know a song that gets on everybody's nerves, everybody's nerves, everybody's nerves. Oh, I know a song that gets on everybody's nerves, and this is how it goes. Oh, I know a song
there
that
we
gets on
go.
everybody's nerves, everybody's nerves, everybody's nerves. Oh, I know a song that gets on everybody's nerves, and this is
There we
how
go.
it
That
goes.
was. That was easier than what I remembered.
We do love when things are easier than we were expecting.
Exactly. We do.
With perhaps the lone exception of when you're like really hyping yourself up for something difficult and then it ends in a total anticlimax. Maybe that's just me.
Okay. I think that should be good. Let me just bring that into OBS browser.
Nice web source.
Thank you.
It's beautiful. I love it. Yeah. You should just keep that right there.
Alright, why is it not showing up? Someone. Oh, there we go.
Oh, hey. You're on my forehead.
I can fix that.
No, that's fine. I'll wear chat on my forehead.
I mean, if you want to, I'm just gonna make the font a little bigger.
I mean, like, I guess if you want to have, like, good production value or something like that, I mean, I wouldn't do that, but, you know.
Yeah, you're gonna be on his head.
Yeah. Enjoy the privilege. It'll never happen again. Until, you know, maybe if we do this again.
All right.
Chat hat.
There we go. Perfect.
Huzzah.
Huzzah.
Every time I say that, I'm tempted to bust out my inner Renaissance Festival worker. Just like yell it at the top of my lungs.
But anyway, since we were stopped for that, I'm gonna take this chance and go grab a glass of water. I won't be long.
I'm going to do that as well, since that's what the cool kids are doing. Behave
you won't.
yourselves, chat. Don't burn everything down.
I am returned with water.
Oh, damn it. Just barely beat me.
Haha, ha ha ha. I'm literally like on the kitchen.
Oh, well, God. Alright, well, it's not exactly a far walk, but my kitchen is a separate room, so I will accept this loss with dignity, knowing that it was at a handicap.
It's fine. It's understandable.
Yep. It's the only circumstance that you could ever possibly beat me in, and I'm insisting that that is true. I would insist on playing some kind of competitive game with you to prove my point, but I think that would actually prove my point instead of me getting bodied comedically.
Anyway, I added the sound alert. Sorry, I had those off.
How dare you?
Uh,
Well, actually, not the worst idea, because, you know, trying to maintain a dramatic atmosphere, but, you know, it's also probably a good idea to have them on.
yeah, I added them now.
Oh, hat fight.
It doesn't show up on my thing to like refund.
VOD watchers skip ahead 3 hours.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It doesn't show up. I'll just play it in like 5 minutes or so. Like, I can't do it now because I have a cooldown on those.
You can't even override your own cooldown? That's weird.
No.
Fine. I'll do it myself. Alright.
Pipes.
So, yeah. Peeps.
Link. Peeps. Here we go.
Okay. I think it's my turn to start. Yeah.
Where's the beginning?
Right after estimated reading time. So you passed it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's just that the solar, they're like formatted different, so I'm like, what?
Yeah. Well, the other ones, I mean, that NoEnd House had like multiple parts, and Candle Cove. Some of the more famous ones, like Candle Cove, will have like a preface and also like an afterword, like describing kind of the history of it. So they'll have like a table of contents.
I see.
Whereas this one is all story all the time.
I see. Anyway, we're ready to go.
That's a fucking emote? What the fuck?
What? Which one? What are you
Fox
looking at?
sitting very comfortable around a campfire with its friends.
Oh yeah, yeah. Look at it on a stream. It's
Yeah,
actually very cute.
it is, but like, what? What the fuck is that name?
I mean, it is what it is. It's
I,
clearly Fox sitting very comfortable around a campfire with its friends.
I guess so.
It is not that? Are you saying it's not that?
Well,
They're not
well, it's not
comfortable
that.
in your
It's
opinion?
not that for Zuni.
There he goes.
Oh, now it is.
Actually, let's wait 55 seconds so I can play the Titanic flute that Freddy sent 5 minutes
Alright, might
ago.
as well.
Oh, I love the go live right now match. Every time I
Yeah.
open OBS to set up, I see it on my chat. And I'm like, damn. These people can't wait.
Cat is nothing if not consistent.
I
Yeah,
mean,
Zuni.
Lap is also here, always throwing it early.
Yeah, that's true. But he wasn't subbed, so he doesn't count.
Oh.
I'm calling you out, Lamp.
Oh, how dare you. 8 seconds. Titanic flute incoming.
4, 3, 2, 1. Ish. Yay!
Lovely. Yeah, there it is. Sorry, I had them deactivated so it didn't play when you sent it. So like I sent it now, but I had to wait for the 5-minute cooldown that I have set up on those.
Shameful display.
Anyway, now we're ready to go for real.
Okay. Sorry. I used to love showers. The way time seemed to stop when I was taking one. I'd get in the stall, turn on the hot water, and forget about all. 2-minute showers weren't fun for me. I was the type who'd run the hot water until it started to lose its heat, and then turn the valve a half-inch toward the H, and then another turn, and another, until I had drained every last drop of warmth from the water tank. If my wife Mary followed me into the shower, she'd scream,
I hate you! It's like a waterfall in Iceland.
almost forgot about that, as barely a drop of hot water sprayed from the shower head. I'd laughingly tell her to suck it up. She'd tell me it was unfair since I was the one who needed the cold showers. Eventually, she figured it out and switched to mornings, and left the evenings to me.
Now I'll never go near a shower stall or a bathroom sink ever again. I perfected the sponge bath and using baby wipes to keep clean. It's been a year since it happened, and to this day, I still wonder if it did. Mary's gone, though the police and her family still look for her, hoping she'll turn up. I know she never will. I couldn't tell the cops what really happened, because if I did, I'd be locked up in the insane asylum. As it is, most people think it had something to do with her disappearance, and I don't blame them. I never put in the effort to look for her, wandering the nearby woods with the other searchers calling out her name. I knew it was a waste of time.
You might even remember the story from the evening news. Think Indiana, the fall, about a year ago. The reporters came and camped out for about 2 weeks, until nothing new came up and interest waned. Mary's parents don't talk to me anymore. Deep down, I think they suspect I murdered her. I didn't squelch their suspicions after I sold the house so soon after her going missing, but the truth was I could never live there after what I saw. I felt bad when another family moved in, but what was I supposed to do? Warn them? About what? Even I don't know how to explain it.
It started with a shower. I just finished one of my usual steamy, water-filled moments. I stepped out of the stall, and there on the foggy bathroom mirror above the sink were the words, "Hello there, when can we meet?" written on the mist-covered glass. It made me smile, knowing Mary had snuck in and left a little note.
She was always doing that. The little things, they say, that make a relationship work. Mary would fill the gas tank in my car when she drove it, stock the snack drawer with double stuffed Oreos, my faves, and leave little notes around the house about how she loved me. I'd open up my closet and there'd be a post-it with a heart drawn on it stuck on my suit, or another stuck on the cereal box when I went to grab breakfast. The next day after dinner, while clearing the table, she playfully slapped me on the ass. That's you.
Actually, that's you.
What? No, this is her talking.
No, it's him, trust me.
No. Alright. Aren't you the little pervert sneaking into the bathroom while I'm taking my shower this morning?
Who, me?
Well, who else? Writing a little message on the steamed up mirror. I slid out the washing machine drawer and stacked some plates. All the while a look of confusion was on my face. I told you it was her. What did I write?
Ah. Oh, it confused me since, like, we were shown, like, he saw the written message.
Yeah.
Alright. As if you don't know, my little boy, how long were you watching?
I'm serious. I have no idea what you're talking about.
You wrote, I see you, on the mirror, with a little smiley face under it.
I stood up from... Oh. No, go ahead.
I stood up from my hunched position at the washing machine and stared at Mary.
I wasn't in the bathroom this morning. I didn't leave any message. I was in the bedroom getting dressed. I never went in.
Mary laughed, but I didn't. The smirk on her face faded, replaced by a genuine look of worry. What? Wait, serious? I nodded, not sure what else to say. We stood there in silence, trying to process our shared realization. Then I asked her.
The night before, did you leave a message for me?
Her hand went to her mouth, worry replaced by fear. She collapsed onto a chair. I knew her answer. Her hand trembled. She looked to the stairs that led to her bedroom and master bath. I want to call the police. Now, right now, she blurted.
And tell them what? Someone has left notes for us on our bathroom mirror?
Yes, exactly that.
And how did this happen? I was in the bedroom from the time you went in till the time you came out. No one snuck past me. There's no window to our bathroom. How did this steamy note-writing intruder get in?
Mary's voice cracked with apprehension. I saw this on TV. It's called frogging. Someone is in our house, secretly here, and we don't know. Either you call the police or I do. I won't stay another night in this house unless they come here and check it out.
3 hours later, 4 police officers searched our house from every corner of the basement to the back of every closet, and under every bed, and even every cabinet. They declared the house clean, like some exorcism. They also checked the Ring camera and other surveillance cameras around our property, and went so far as to ask our neighbors if they could review their cameras, and not one person was spotted near our house over the last 2 days and nights. Of course, it was the good news. Of course, it was the good news, bad news scenario. The good, there's no prowler secretly living in our house. The bad, there was no clue as to how those messages showed up on our bathroom mirror.
One of the older cops, his mustache as thick as a raccoon's tail, pulled me aside and asked if I was playing games with Mary, doing a little gaslighting for some crazy-ass purpose. I told him I wasn't, and I couldn't even think of a reason why I'd want to do something like that. He said he'd seen it all and nothing surprised him anymore. Mary used the guest bathroom that night, and only after I checked it out. There really was no place to hide in there, except for the cabinets under the vanity. I opened the map and assured her there was no one there. I stood guard outside as she took her shower, the bathroom door left open.
When she was done, there were no messages on the mirror, which calmed her down considerably. That and a margarita with Valium. I put off my shower until the morning, as Mary was still too wound up to be left alone. We crashed on the bed and she fell asleep in my reassuring arms. She kept asking me,
How then? It doesn't make sense. How?
The only thing I could tell her was, we're gonna figure it out. And one day we'll both say how stupid it was and laugh ourselves silly.
Mary kept shaking her head, not buying my half-assed explanation. Hell, it wasn't even an explanation. Just something to say to make her feel better. I wasn't as scared like she was. More confused, and for a half a second, I even thought maybe she was gaslighting me. Like the cop said, nothing surprised him anymore. That night I had a dream about a primary school teacher of mine, Mrs. Beale. She was old, grandma-like with a shock of white hair swirled up in a bun. In the dream she was wearing a floral print dress and writing on a blackboard. But instead of using chalk, she was using someone's chopped off finger and screaming with its blood. She kept writing the word death, death, death.
I woke up sweating and popped a Valium and joined Mary in a deep drug-induced slumber. Better sleeping through chemistry. Mary left for work before me in the morning, sprinting out in a rush, wanting to leave the house as quick as possible. My mind was a little hazy from the Valium. The turmoil of the night before seemed like it happened weeks ago. I had no problem using our master bathroom except for my shower. As with the guest bath, there was really no place to hide, except for inside the vanity. I wasn't giving in to crazed fear, but to be honest, I did a quick check just in case. It was all clear, unless this person was hiding in the first aid box.
The hot water felt good. There really is something to the idea of washing away your troubles. I was able to relax and enjoy, even though I did find my gaze drifting to the bathroom mirror, keeping an eye out for any messages. When I turned the water off, the bathroom was hot, steamy, and note-free.
I grabbed a towel and made my way into the bedroom, dried off and put on my underwear and socks. I returned to the bathroom to brush my teeth. I stopped. My body went rigid. My heart sped up, and in an instant I went cold. Drawn on the bathroom mirror was a frowning smiley face. No words. Just the grin.
It wasn't there when I walked out of the shower, and no one had gotten past me into the bathroom while I was pulling clothes out of the closet. I wasn't watching the whole time, but I would have heard them or caught them in the corner of my eye. I stood there in the doorway. My eyes drifted down to the vanity and the two knee-high doors. Could someone be hiding in there now?
I stepped backwards, not taking my eyes off of the bathroom. Backing up to the bed, my hand reached behind the headboard and found my trusted burglar deterrent, a 32-ounce Louisville Slugger. It felt good in my hands as I walked towards the bathroom. Bat in hand, I flung open the vanity doors and was confronted by a hairdryer, the first aid kit, makeup mirror, and heating pad. No contortionist killer.
I looked up to the smiley face on the mirror, which now looked melted as the steam began to condense and drip. It looked like it was crying. Then I heard the noise. It was coming from the drain in the bathroom sink. It sounded like giggling, someone laughing. I leaned down, tilted my head, my ear inches away, when I felt the puff of air come out the drain and blow against my cheek. I whipped my head up and backed away. What the hell was that? Not sure what to do, I was frozen in the moment. Then I ran, down into the basement. The shelves under the stairs, I scanned them, looking. There, on the top shelf, I grabbed the red plastic jug, the drain cleaner.
I turned to head upstairs, but I stopped. My attention was drawn to the drain pipe running along the basement wall. There was something in it. Moving. I could hear it. 3 steps at a time, I bolted up from the basement and then to the foyer stairs. Out of breath and my hand shaking, I twisted off the cap of the caustic liquid and poured it into the sink. Every last drop. Then I got out of there.
I thought I heard a scream, but I was too far away in the bedroom, so I couldn't really be sure. My head was spinning. Nothing made sense. There was no way what I told Mary the night before was ever going to be true. We're going to figure it out one day and laugh ourselves silly. I wasn't laughing. After about 10 minutes, I moved towards the sink. All of the drain cleaner was gone, and there weren't any sounds rising out of the little hole at the bottom of the basin. The steam had cleared from the mirror, and the smiley face was gone. It was just my face now, looking confused and slightly embarrassed. Did I really hear anything? Drain monster or not, I had to get to work.
The red plastic jug was thrown into the recycling bin, and I jumped into my car. As I backed out of the driveway, my eyes locked into our bedroom window. I wasn't sure what I was expecting to see, but I was glad nothing was there except the curtains. I called Mary at lunchtime, not to tell her what happened, but to see how she was doing. I'd never let her know about the smiley face on the mirror and what I thought I'd heard. If I did, she would never set foot in the house again. Nope. I'd take this to my grave. Mary sounded a lot better on the phone. The night's sleep and the morning sun seemed to let her get her bearings. She only had one request.
Please be home before me. I just want to make sure I'm not alone in the house, at least for the next few days.
Sure. You got it, babe. In my best reassuring voice.
The rest of the afternoon, I was pretty useless at work. My brain was performing mental gymnastics trying to explain what happened. I spent most of the day in my cubicle searching the internet for answers. After going down rabbit hole after rabbit hole, there was something that seemed to explain, or at least might explain, what was happening. I found an article about when some people get new carpets, they can have strong reactions to the chemicals in the rugs. Bingo! We had just recarpeted the living room and bedrooms, no more than 2 weeks earlier.
Mary had been complaining of headaches recently, although I hadn't experienced anything out of the norm. The article listed the effects of the chemicals. You could have blurred vision, nausea, and even hallucinations. Everything seemed to check. That evening over dinner, I pulled up the carpet article on my phone and read it to Mary. You could see the tension melt away with every word I read. She started talking about how forgetful she had been lately, and mentioned the headaches and even some weird dreams. Which, of course, struck a chord with me, recalling my blood-finger chalkboard from the night before.
Even though it was fall and a chill was in the air, we ran the air conditioner that night to help filter out the chemicals. We threw open the windows on the second floor as well. It was cold, but at least we were getting clean, healthy air. I took my shower that night, without incident. No smiley faces, frowning faces, or messages appeared on the mirror. We snuggled up close, broke out another comforter to combat the breezes coming out of the vents and windows, then fell asleep with the knowledge that we had figured it out. Mary turned to me, kissed me on the forehead. My hero, such a detective. You were right, we will laugh about this. Mary took her shower that morning. I was getting dressed when I heard a thump. It sounded like she dropped the soap in the stall.
I called out, "Are you okay?" But there was silence. Mary didn't say anything. Thinking she didn't hear me, I yelled this time, raising my voice over the sound of the radio that was on and the gurgling stream flowing from the shower. "You okay, babe?" There was another thump. I made my way into the bathroom. I didn't rush in. There was no reason to think anything was wrong. She hadn't screamed.
Even now, I can't truly understand what I saw. Partly because it happened so fast, and also because it was so terrifying. The cover to the drain was gone, and sticking out of the hole were two very thin hands, skeletal, covered in a bruise-colored skin? I wasn't sure what to call it. The arms were elongated and seemed to be able to stretch and bend like the pipe cleaners you played with as kids. There were 5 fingers to a hand, with fingernails that were cracked and yellow and seemed to have brown sludge caked under each nail. The hands had a grip on Mary's head. That's all that was left. Her body was gone. Somehow that thing had managed to tear apart my wife and drag her legs, arms and torso down the drain in a matter of moments. Only her head remained, the hair wet and stringy, and Mary's eyes wide open in a perpetual state of shock.
Whatever creature, thing, or being was down inside the pipes wielded a supernatural strength, because the last I saw of Mary, those hands were crushing her skull, flattening it, and then dragging it into the black hole on the floor of the shower. The sight of it was horrifying, but the sounds were just as terrible. The bones crunched and cracked. It sounded like someone stepping on a bag of potato chips. I wanted to vomit, but my utter shock seemed to freeze my body. I couldn't even move. She was gone. The water, which was still running, washed whatever bits of flesh and bone blood down the drain. Just like Mary, I didn't scream. I just mumbled out her name. Mary? I managed to inch towards the shower, step by step. I pulled open the glass door and shut off the water. I leaned into the stall.
My eyes focused on the drain, the round abyss, no more than 5 inches wide. I saw nothing but blackness and red drops around the edge of the hole. There was a sound, a rhythmic drip, 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 as water leaked from the shower head. Nothing else, except the weather guy on the radio telling me to take an umbrella because it might rain that afternoon. I had to sit down. The room was starting to spin. When I turned to leave, I saw the words written on the bathroom mirror. Goodbye. I fainted.
When I woke up, I heard a voice. It was the weather guy on the radio, once again telling me that it was going to rain, which meant I had been out for at least 15 minutes, since that's how often they updated the weather. It could have been longer, maybe I had been unconscious for more than one weather report. And then it dawned on me. The thing was still in the drain. Maybe it was coming for me next. I bolted up and half crawled and half stumbled out of the room. I saw the clock on the nightstand. I had only been out cold for 15 minutes. My phone. Where was my phone? I needed to call the police. That's what I need to do next. I scampered around the room looking for it. I saw it on the top of the dresser.
My thumb was about to press down on 1 to finish the sequence 911. When I stopped, what was I going to tell them? As I replayed the horrifying moment in my mind, I realized how insane it was and how insane I would sound trying to convince someone what I saw. I remember the police officer from the other night questioning me as to whether I was gaslighting Mary, as if I was intentionally trying to make her upset. And now a few days later I was calling to say she was dead, killed by some drain monster? They then find bits and pieces of hair in my pipes and her DNA splattered along the shower walls. It wouldn't be the drain monster they'd be looking to arrest, but me. I put down the phone and replayed every crime documentary Mary and I had watched on Netflix. I knew what I had to do.
Although I was terrified, I made my way back into the bathroom and the shower. I wiped everything down with bleach and cleaners, rinsing everything clean. I had stacked 2 50-pound weights from our workout room on top of the drain to give me some sense of security as I scrubbed and washed, leaving just a little space for the water to rinse away. I wiped down the weights after and placed them back on the workout bench. I got dressed. One of the things I learned from all of those crime shows was to keep your normal routine if you wanted to avoid being a suspect. I'd leave for work as I always did, just before Mary usually left. The surveillance cameras would catch me pulling out of the garage. It would be a little later than normal, but I'd explain that away with the Valium we had taken. I knew I needed an answer for every question the police would ask, An alibi for every moment and minute from this point on.
When I sat inside the car to leave, I noticed Mary had left a yellow post-it note on my steering wheel. I love you. I was crying when I pulled away from the house. My mind was racing as I drove. I knew they'd review the surveillance footage and never see Mary leave. But there were blind spots the cameras didn't cover, and maybe her abductor knew about this and used those blind spots to take her away. That would be my story. In less than an hour, I had gone from happily married man to some sort of mastermind criminal covering up a murder I didn't commit.
Over the next few weeks, our block became a media circus. Every alphabet network camped out and captured every coming and going at the house. I was a suspect at first. The thought that was I killed her in our home, but they couldn't find the body. The GPS in my car and cell phone records showed I'd never made any stops after I left the house or when I came home, so I couldn't have disposed of Mary on my drive. Besides, Mary had called her mother just before she took her shower, and I had left a little a half hour after the call. Forensic pathologists said there wasn't enough time to cut up a body and flush it down the toilet. And besides, the DNA evidence I'd leave from such a butchering would have been impossible for the detectives to miss.
When these accusations flew, I never wavered or panicked, because I knew I didn't kill Mary. There were also no reports of us fighting or evidence of affairs. They didn't uncover a hidden insurance policy I might have taken out of my wife. We were, by all accounts, a loving, devoted couple. I also knew they'd never find the body. The prevailing thought was she was taken from the house and kidnapped by some crazy serial killer. They weren't that far off in their assessment. It was a crazy killer, but it was living in the pipes of my home. Or maybe had moved on to another house in the county, using the pipes and drains to come and go as it pleased. Who knew how this thing lived and existed?
I moved out of the house and stayed at a local hotel, telling everyone it was too painful to live there anymore. Too many memories. But really, it was one memory. The one that was seared into my brain left me weeping in fear every night. Mary's head being crushed like an empty soda can and dragged down the drain. I made sure my room was on the top floor of the hotel, thinking it would be harder for the thing in the pipes to crawl and shimmy up 25 floors. Even so, I began my sponge bath and baby wipes routine that night. Not to be too graphic, but when I went to the bathroom, I did my business in the plastic garbage pail and then flushed it down. I was terrified of sitting on the toilet.
Eventually, the media circus pulled up its tent stakes and left town. There was nothing new to report. As of now, Mary's disappearance is an ongoing police investigation. I even call every few days, asking what leads they're pursuing, playing the concerned husband, but I know they'll never find her. I don't feel guilty about my fake concern. Like I said, I didn't kill her. Although I did feel pangs of guilt when I sold the house. Of course, I didn't warn them, but I convinced myself that the creature will never kill again in the same home. It has survived and thrived by being stealthy. 2 missing persons from the same house will cause a few people to start to question what was really happening.
A part of me thought I might have caused Mary's death, that somehow I angered the creature with the drain cleaner by burning it and causing it pain. To be honest, up until it killed Mary, it had only been playful interactions, the thing leaving silly messages. Maybe my actions enraged it and it struck back the only way it knew how. I moved out of the county. My commute is twice as long, but peace of mind is more important. I actually went to town hall and spoke to the Bureau of Refuse and Sewage to make sure my new home was in no way connected to my old home via sewer pipes. They assured me it wasn't, and they also said they'd never had anyone ask that question before.
It's been over a year, and I haven't kept in touch with any of my neighbors or in-laws. When I did, our conversations were always about Mary, which meant I had to relive what happened and what I saw over and over again, each and every time we talked. I couldn't do it anymore. It had to stop. Leaving town only fed into her suspicions about me having something to do with her disappearance. So be it. I love Mary with all my heart and soul, and no amount of suspicion will ever change that. I knew what I knew. Things were getting back to some semblance of normal in my new home. And then last night everything changed. I was making... Oh, go ahead. Finish it.
I was making pasta. I drained the spaghetti, then went to the fridge to grab the grated cheese. When I turned, the steam from the boiling water had caught the window above the sink. And the moisture condensed on the glass, someone or something had drawn a smiley face. I'm in my car now, driving. Maybe another state is far enough. Or a cabin in the woods with no plumbing. I don't know.
Damn! Damn! That one was scary.
It ends in pasta.
And yeah, they're making pasta in a creepypasta.
Yeah. But yeah, I like that one.
That one was good.
The sticky note from the wife made me sad the first time I read it.
Yeah, like damn. And also it just kind of happens, you know. There's like no explanation, like no nothing. It's just like no, not much of a build up either. It's just like, you know, like it was as the writer says, like it just was kind of like two messages. They get creeped out, like then the smiley face, the drain thing, and next thing, murder. It's like, oh.
Yeah. You get zero warning and zero explanation, and then you don't even get to get away from it.
Yeah. It's insane. Like, goddamn.
Yeah. Yeah, I like this one.
Yeah.
This one actually is fairly new, actually. I think it was posted this year, which gives me... posted March 10th this year.
Oh. Yeah, March 10th, 2023.
Which leaves me with good hopes for the future of creepypasta.
Good work, Mr. Kevin Bakar.
Yeah, however the hell you say that name. Clap. Pachi,
that was
Pachi.
really good. Yeah, that was really good. It actually made me, like, you know, had like a chill go down my spine at some points, and I was like, eee. Especially it's just like dark at night here, and it's raining outside.
Yeah. Be sure to take a long and steamy shower, Kuriko.
Good thing I don't. Good thing my showers never get steamy, because I don't shower with very hot shower. I can't stand hot water.
Well, I guess better make some pasta. I don't know. Make some pasta and hold the pot underneath a window.
My mask gonna live off a well now, real.
Yeah. Oh well. Get it? No. That wasn't my intent there. I was trying to just say, oh well, he's a drain monster, it's what he deserves, but dude's living in the fucking septic tank.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, but that one was creepy and sad.
Yeah, that one tugs on some emotions in a few different ways.
Yeah.
Slide whistle.
And I see you already sent me the next one. Let's go. Copy link.
Alright, now full disclosure, I mostly just skimmed this one. I'm pretty sure it's good. I liked the beats, but I didn't actually read it like super closely, so
okay.
We'll be exploring this one together.
Whoa, let's go. From 2010? Wow.
Yeah.
Mr. Widemouth. 6 minutes. So I guess I start now?
Yep.
Let me get some more water in me.
Did you get that water from the pipes? No.
No, I actually got it from a jug in my fridge.
Same.
During my childhood, my family was like a drop of water in a vast river, never remaining in one location for long. We settled in Rhode Island when I was 8, and there we remained until I went to college in Colorado Springs. Most of my memories are rooted in Rhode Island, but there are fragments in the attic of my brain which belong to the various homes we had lived in when I was much younger. Most of these memories are unclear and pointless. Chasing after another boy in the backyard of a house in North Carolina, trying to build a raft to float on the creek behind the apartment we rented in Pennsylvania, and so on. But there is one set of memories which remains as clear as glass, as though they were just made yesterday. I often wonder whether these memories are simply lucid dreams produced by the long sickness I experienced that spring. But in my heart, I know they are real.
We were living in a house just outside the bustling metropolis of New Vineyard, Maine, population 643. It was a large structure, especially for a family of 3. There were a number of rooms that I didn't see in the 5 months we resided there. In some ways it was a waste of space, but it was the only house on the market at the time. At least within an hour's commute to my father's place of work. The day after my 5th birthday, attended by my parents alone, I came down with a fever. The doctor said I had mononucleosis, which meant no rough play and more fever for at least another 3 weeks. It was horrible timing to be bedridden. We were in the process of packing our things to move to Pennsylvania, and most of my things were already packed away in boxes, leaving my room barren. My mother brought me a ginger ale and books several times a day, and these served the function of being my primary form of entertainment for the next few weeks. Boredom always loomed just around the corner, waiting to rear its ugly head and compound my misery.
I don't exactly recall how I met Mr. Widemouth. I think it was about a week after I was diagnosed with mono. My first memory of the small creature was asking him if he had a name. He told me to call him Mr. Widemouth, because his mouth was large. In fact, everything about him was large in comparison to his body. His head, his eyes, his crooked ears, but his mouth was by far the largest. "You look kind of like a Furby," I said as he flipped through one of my books. Mr. Widemouth stopped and gave me a puzzled look.
Furby? What's a Furby?
He asked. I shrugged. "You know, the toy. The little robot with the big ears. You can pet and feed them, almost like a real pet."
Oh,
Mr. Widemouth resumed his activity.
you don't need one of those. They aren't the same as having a real friend. I remember Mr. Widemouth disappearing every time my mother stopped by to check in on me. "I lay under your bed," he later explained. "I don't want your parents to see me because I'm afraid they won't let us play anymore." We didn't do much during those first few days. Mr. Widemouth just looked at my books, fascinated by the stories and pictures they contained. The third or fourth morning after I met him, he greeted me with a large smile on his face. "I have a new game we can play," he said. "We have to wait until after your mother comes to check on you, because she can't see us play it. It's a secret game."
After my mother delivered more books and soda at the usual time, Mr. Widemouth slipped out from under the bed and tugged my hand.
"We have to go to the room at the end of this hallway,"
he said. I objected at first, as my parents had forbidden me to leave my bed without their permission, but Mr. Widemouth persisted until I gave in. The room in question had no furniture or wallpaper. Its only distinguishing feature was a window opposite the doorway. Mr. Widemouth darted across the room and gave the window a firm push, flinging it open. He then beckoned me to look out at the ground below.
We were on the second story of the house, but it was on a hill, and from this angle the drop was farther than the 2 stories due to the incline. I like to play pretend up here, Mr. Widemouth explained. I pretend that there is a big, soft trampoline below this window, and I jump. If you pretend hard enough, you bounce back up like a feather. I want you to try. I was a 5-year-old with a fever, so only a hint of skepticism darted through my thoughts as I looked down and considered the possibility.
It's a long drop.
I said. But that's all part of the fun. It wouldn't be fun if it was only a short drop. If it were that way, you may as well just bounce on a real trampoline.
I toyed with the idea, picturing myself falling through thin air only to bounce back to the window on something unseen by human eyes. But the realist in me prevailed. Maybe some other time, I said. I don't know if I have enough imagination. I could get hurt. Mr. Widemouth's face contorted into a snarl, but only for a moment. Anger gave way to disappointment.
If you say so,
He said. He spent the rest of the day under my bed, quiet as a mouse.
The following morning, Mr. Widemouth arrived holding a small box. I want to teach you how to juggle, he said. Here are some things you can use to practice before I start giving you lessons. I looked in the box. It was full of knives.
My parents would kill me.
I shouted, horrified that Mr. Widemouth had brought knives into my room, objects that my parents would never allow me to touch.
I'll be spanked and grounded for a year.
Mr. Widemouth frowned. It's fun to juggle with these. I want you to try it.
I pushed the box away. I can't. I'll get in trouble. Knives aren't safe to just throw in the air. Mr. Widemouth's frown deepened into a scowl. He took the box of knives and slid under my bed, remaining there the rest of the day. I began to wonder how often he was under me. I started having trouble sleeping after that. Mr. Widemouth often woke me up at night, saying he put a real trampoline under the window, a big one that I couldn't see in the dark. I always declined and tried to go back to sleep, but Mr. Widemouth persisted. Sometimes he stayed by my side until early in the morning, encouraging me to jump. He wasn't so fun to play with anymore.
My mother came to me one morning and told me I had her permission to walk around outside. She thought the fresh air would be good for me, especially after being confined to my room for so long. Ecstatic, I put on my sneakers and trotted out to the back porch, yearning for the feeling of the sun on my face. Mr. Widemouth was waiting for me. I have something I want you to see, he said. I must have given him a weird look, because he then said, It's safe, I promise.
I followed him to the beginning of a deer trail which ran through the woods behind the house.
This is an important path,
He explained.
I've had a lot of friends about your age. When they were ready, I took them down this path to a special place. You aren't ready yet, but one day I hope to take you there.
I returned to the house, wondering what kind of place lay beyond that trail. 2 weeks after I met Mr. Widemouth, the last load of our things had been packed into a moving truck. I will be in the cab of that truck, sitting next to my father for the long drive to Pennsylvania. I considered telling Mr. Widemouth that I would be leaving, but even at 5 years old, I was beginning to suspect that perhaps the creature's intentions were not to my benefit, despite what he said otherwise. For this reason, I decided to keep my departure a secret.
My father and I were in the truck at 4 a.m. He was hoping to make it to Pennsylvania by lunchtime tomorrow with the help of an endless supply of coffee and a 6-pack of energy drinks. He seemed more like a man who was about to run a marathon rather than one who was about to spend 2 days sitting still. Early enough for you? He asked. I nodded and placed my head against the window, hoping for some sleep before the sun came up. I felt my father's hand on my shoulder. This is the last move, son, I promise. I know it's hard for you, as sick as you've been. Once Daddy gets promoted, we can settle down and you can make friends.
I opened my eyes as we backed out of the driveway. I saw Mr. Widemouth's silhouette in my bedroom window. He stood motionless until the truck was about to turn onto the main road. He gave a pitiful little wave goodbye, a steak knife in hand. I didn't wave back. Years later, I returned to New Vineyard. The piece of land our house stood upon was empty except for the foundation, as the house burned down a few years after my family left. Out of curiosity, I followed the deer trail that Mr. Widemouth had shown me. Part of me expected him to jump out from behind a tree and scare the living bejesus out of me. But I felt that Mr. Widemouth was gone, somehow tied to the house that no longer existed. The trail ended at the New Vineyard Memorial Cemetery. I noticed that many of the tombstones belonged to children.
Your friend, Mr. Widemouth.
Sheesh! Sheesh! Your good friend.
Oh yeah, your best friend. He has only your best intentions in mind.
And only fun games.
Oh yeah. You just need some imagination.
Yeah. Damn. Just got the last line and it's perfect. Why don't you like the last line?
I mean, I feel like the idea of many of the tombstones belonging to children is a little self-explanatory, but
I mean, yeah, true.
But still, it's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Creepy.
I did like that. I did like how when he was waving goodbye, he just had a fucking knife in his hand.
Yeah, steak knife.
Like, bye. I'll murder you some other time.
Ah.
Yeah, I guess it would be a slightly stronger ending if it just saying the trail ended at the New Vineyard Memorial Cemetery.
Yeah, I think it's easy to what's the word I'm looking for? Like infer that it was like something that talked to children, by the way it acted.
Yeah, it's pretty apparent right from the get-go, honestly, but
yeah.
At least to us, but the tension isn't, it's a 5-year-old kid.
Mm-hmm. And that's why, because the way it says, like, oh, I have a game to play, like,
Yeah.
Well, we should play this, we should play that.
It's a very secret game. You can't tell your parents. It's just a little creepy.
So yeah, I feel like it's easy to infer that, like, it like targets children.
Yeah. Considering that's literally its entire character the entire time.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but still, I guess
still pretty good.
Yeah. Guess you can't always count on the I don't know, literature level reading ability of your audience, although it seems a little what's the word I'm looking for? A little patronizing? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just a tiny bit. Not like to the point where it's insulting, but it's like it does seem a little unnecessary.
Yeah, no, it's just that it's good, like it's not bad. It's just that it was stronger to just have left it on like that one liner at the end instead of like adding other line.
Yeah.
It could have been like, I don't know, like a children's cemetery or something. I know those are not real, but like, I don't know actually, but
the New Vineyard Pet Cemetery.
But like, it will have like made the point for like anyone that didn't get it, while leaving it as like a one-liner ending, which would have felt stronger.
Yeah.
But anyway,
it's a minor blemish on an otherwise quite good story.
Yeah, no, it was excellent.
And now,
The Quiet Sky. Okay, that's an interesting title.
You'll see why I picked this one soon enough.
Video unavailable. Okay. So it's your turn to start, I think?
Yep.
Okay. Feel free.
Hold on. I must adjust. It started when we called out to the stars, into the darkness. We felt so small, tumbling through vast emptiness while clinging to the skin of the world, and without a single reason why. We were curious, yes, but ultimately, I think we were just terribly frightened. And we were young. So very young. We were children, and like a lonely, lost child, we did the only thing we could think of to make it stop. We did what we thought we had to do in order to make the universe make sense. We called for help. For years, we scanned the sky for a sign. We sent signals to the stars and the darkness beyond. Are we alone? But the skies were quiet. Always so quiet, leaving us to our own makings.
But crying children never cease, and neither did we. We sent calls into every corner of space for decade after decade. We refused to believe no one was out there. They had to be. Yet, for some unknown reason, they never answered us. Everyone remembers when that changed. They think it responded to the Arecibo message from 1974. The response to the Arecibo message was received almost 3 months ago, in 2 separate parts. The first part of the message was received at the Hat Creek Radio Observatory in California. The Allen telescope array picked up what sounded like static interference that continued on for over an hour. It consisted of unintelligible screeching and buzzing sounds that continued without pause for the whole hour. The meaning of this message was never discovered, if it had one. The only thing we knew was that the signal's origin came somewhere in the Hercules constellation, near Messier 13. As soon as that signal stopped, the real message began. We made contact that day, and we were asked a question. Who is there?
It came not through the radios, but as a voice. A voice inside all of our heads asked the question to all of us. I heard it. My wife heard it. The young heard it, and the old heard it. Even the deaf heard it. Everyone, everywhere, heard this voice whisper that question in their heads, in every language on Earth. I remember it almost too clearly. It asks in that familiar yet indescribable voice that's always there in my mind. It was like one of my own thoughts had gone rogue and had decided to speak directly to me. The world seemed to stop as everyone listened for what came next. Where are you?
The heavy question seemed to linger in our minds for hours afterwards, and then for days, and then for weeks. That day changed everything. There were the doubters from the very beginning, and the holy ones who claimed that God had spoken to all of us and that the time to repent was now. There were those who claimed they heard nothing, and those who claimed that the aliens had given them their own secret messages. And, of course, there were those who truly believed that we had been contacted for the first time by an extraterrestrial race like us, one ready to communicate, ready to let us out of the dark. We were wrong.
We never made contact with alien life. At least, nothing comprehensible or discernible to human understanding. The stars are vast, and in their vastness, our voices had touched the ears of something truly incomprehensible. Something hungry and malevolent. The voice. We realized our mistake when the ground started to groan. Beneath our feet, everywhere, the ground seemed to moan. The muffled sounds shook through the dust and dirt below us. No one knew what was causing it, at least, not until the calls started coming in. The graveyards were screaming.
All at once, the dead had started screaming. Every deceased man, woman, and child was turning in their graves. All the animals did so too. Every dog, every cat, everything that had ever walked this earth. The cries of ancient whales shook the seas, and the shrill screeching of birds echoed in the forests. The caskets shook, and the morgues howled. The voices stopped together, in an instant leaving the world in an amplified silence. In their absence, a new sound filled the air. The voice returned. I hear you.
It came as a whisper from behind, an ominous yet oddly playful presence that felt so close, but was truly still so far away. It let us breathe in the silence for a minute before it made us a promise. It was a promise we all knew to be true. I am coming. The voice was gone, and the air was again filled with screams. This time, they were from the living.
After the voice had gone, we were left to our own devices. Millions panicked, and rightfully so, as chaos took hold of the streets. Many will die in the violence and the gunfire of that night. They will be known as the rapture before long, and the rest of us were the condemned. We could only wait. The screaming dead was only the first of the side effects that we felt as the voice approached. The closer it got, the more we felt it.
That first night after the screaming, we noticed the stars bleed for the first time. A section of the western sky had turned black, blacker than the night. It was only truly visible because of the ring of stars around it. The light from those stars had turned red, and they seemed to bleed across the sky like food coloring dropped into water. Their light swirled and flowed all around the edge around the edge of some unseen mass. I knew then that I was staring into the face of the voice. Our scientists claimed that nothing was there, that their radar and scans always came up empty. Their telescopes could see nothing but darkness in that section of space. However, the proof was right in front of us, as every night that ring of darkness got wider, and more stars bled in the sky. We watched it come.
As each night passed, the black spot will widen, and more stars will distort and bleed around it. During the day, a new hell will greet us. The side effects worsened. The day always brought something new. I'm sure most of what happened will go untold and unknown. The animals started disappearing. All of them. No tracks, traces, or bodies were left behind. Pests were run away, some violently so. They all retreated, never to be seen again. The forests were left abandoned, the oceans empty, the air was left silent. The world left seemed empty and lonely. They left like water receding from the shore, just before the tsunami breaks.
One day, about 2 weeks ago, scientists tried to talk to the voice again. They hoped, perhaps, to reason with it. They told it about what was happening on our world, and asked it questions. The scientists begged. It didn't speak. When asked what the voice sent a response. The next night, the skies lit up with streaks of fire. It was alight for hours, blazoned with orange and red. We didn't realize the effects until the next day when the televisions turned to static, and the telephones refused to work. We had sat, watching, as all the satellites were knocked out of the heavens. After that, reports became rumors and rumblings. Sanity a thing of the past. The air chilled and weighed us down. The voice was nearly here, and everyone felt it.
It rained for a week after the satellites fell. The rain was salty and mired with an unknown filth that turned the grass black. Maybe the satellites struck something back in with them when they hit the sky. No one knew for sure. All we know is that it fell from clouds black as charcoal that blotted out the sun, like liquid ash. Darkness fell upon us for days. When the clouds went away, the skies were empty. There were no clouds, yet the sky hung low and grey. If the sun was anywhere in the sky, it never made itself known. Even it had abandoned us. Each day grew slowly darker and darker until night and day became almost the same.
Some people would claim later that they'd seen things in the dark, creatures with gangly limbs and crooked faces, lurking in the corner of their vision. They were tall, white creatures that looked molten or rotten through their transparent skin. Appearances would last for just a second or two, before vanishing without a trace. Some believed this was the first step in the aliens' invasion, but the rest of us didn't know what to think. We just knew that it was nothing that simple, or benign. They must have been hallucinations, just more madness to endure, but ultimately as harmless as anything else. As harmless as the screams of the dead, the missing animals, and the dying sky. Appearances slowly increased in duration and number. I think everyone saw them at least once, but I don't think a single person would ever guess why they were truly here. They never touched nor spoke to anyone, and they certainly never harmed anyone. Most who got good looks at them described them as mournful or sorrowful looking. Some even claimed the creatures watched over them at night, and others even claimed that it seemed as if the creatures were sorry for them. One claimed to have even seen one prostrate upon the ground, hands clasped above its head. He said it was praying for us.
Prayer was no help. The churches and places of worship that had divided us for so long failed to bring hope to any in the end. The voice let them pray and beg for a while, but just days ago the voice ended it all. No one questioned how, for at this point nothing that happened surprised anyone anymore. But on the final day, all books of worship burned. Every last Bible, every Quran, everything. People rushed to their centers of faith, but found no solace. The churches and temples had suffered the same fates, if not worse. The people were left, abandoned by their greatest hopes. There were rumors of churches all over the world, with walls formed from the bodies of those who sought refuge. They were merged to the walls, stuck to them like flies in a trap. They died still pleading for hope, but they were beyond God's help. The rest of us had learned to stop begging. We waited.
The final message came. From beyond the sky, it fell upon us. The voice echoed, and it spoke the simple truth. I am here. There's a darkness beyond the horizon, the likes of which I doubt has ever been seen. It brings with it the screams of countless souls, and it moves fast. Stars are dying now, and I know they'll never be seen again. The light is dying so fast.
I leave this not as a warning. No, it's far too late for that. Instead, consider this the last realization, the last humanity will ever know. For we used to wonder whether or not we were alone and lost, but never whether or not we were safe and hidden. The universe is infinite, and our understanding was significantly more finite. We should never have beckoned to the darkness. Instead, we should have clung to the light and closed our eyes every time we were turned to the void. As the final minutes approach, I hold one final truth to be certain. I know why the skies were always so quiet.
It's a little bit of eldritch horror to wake you up.
Damn! Damn!
You ever watch The Stars Bleed, kids?
I love the creativity on this one too. Like from a writing perspective, you know, like all the different steps that happened, all the different things.
Yeah, all of the side effects, the omens.
Yeah, like, you know, like the ground is screaming, like the dead is screaming, and like the animals just like disappearing. That's like, yeah, that's some good sci-fi slash horror. That was very nice.
Yeah. A little bit of a touch of eldritch unknowableness.
You love to
Plus,
see it.
Yeah. Creatures from the void, ladies and gentlemen. I think my favorite part, other than everything that has ever lived screaming
Yeah.
after it's died, God, I love that part. I
Yeah.
think I like the creatures, like trying to like atone or something.
Oh yeah, the creatures too. Like that was also really nice. Like it's fun also because it's one of the things like it's just nothing makes sense. It's just weird and creepy stuff happening. And then it just ends. Like it came to like end everything.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow. Damn.
I think my favorite interpretation is that it didn't even come to end everything, it just arrived. And the sheer, I don't know, weight, nonsense of its presence just destroyed everything.
Oh yeah, no, that's a nice interpretation. Because I mean you were just asking, you know, like who's there? Who are you? And like, I'm coming. Like, they never said like it sounded menacing or anything. It was just
by
coming.
Yeah. Just by virtue of what it is, everything that you could possibly ever know is utterly incompatible with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very nice, very nice.
Yeah. Including any possible solace you could seek from being dead.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, send you the next
Copy
one.
link. That's a long title.
Yeah, it's a bit of a light novel title.
What's this? Panic at the Disco song?
Yeah.
It does sound like a... Yeah.
It's an old Fall Out Boy title.
Uh-huh. Oh, hey, from 2020. Nice.
Yeah. This one is... I feel like this will get to some people more than others. I guess it depends on how well you can empathize or something.
Mm-hmm. If your arm and at the Glenmont Metro, please shoot me.
All this stuff about cemeteries reminds me about that one place where you aren't allowed to be buried because the temperatures are so cold that bacteria that would decompose your body can't live, and so your body never rots.
Oh, that's...
That sounds like a few places in Siberia, honestly.
Yeah. Alright, Bellhound, hope you can have a good night's sleep tonight.
Yeah. Night, Bellhound, pleasant dreams.
I laugh, but I probably will have trouble falling asleep after this. But I mean, I brought this on myself.
Just for you, Fox.
Woo! But yeah, let's go. If your arm on the Glenmont Metro, please shoot me. Let's go. If your arm and at the Glenmont Metro, please shoot me. Make it a headshot. Shoot me in the temple, aiming slightly downwards. I need a bullet to travel the shortest possible distance through my brain before it hits my hippocampus. If I'm lucky, the sensation of the gunshot ripping through my skull will only last a few decades. As awful as this sounds, you'll be doing me an enormous favor. Dead by a headshot, as soon as possible, is vastly better than the alternative.
My ordeal started over 10,000 years ago, at 10:15 this morning. I earn extra money by participating in drug trials. I'm a so-called healthy subject who takes experimental drugs to help assess side effects. Once it was a kidney drug, a few times it's been something for blood pressure or cholesterol. This morning they told me the drug I took was a psychoactive substance intended to accelerate brain function. None of the drugs I had tested for have ever done anything for me in the recreational sense. In other words, none of the drugs I've tested have given me a killer buzz or mellowed me out or anything. Maybe I've always ended up in the placebo group, but nothing I've tested had ever affected me at all.
Today's drug was different. This shit worked. They gave me a pill at 10:15 and told me to hang out in the waiting room until they called me back for some tests. Only about 30 minutes, the research assistant told me. I flopped onto the waiting room couch and read a few articles from a copy of Psychology Today that was sitting on the coffee table. They hadn't called me back when I finished the Psychology Today, so I picked up a US News and read it cover to cover. Then I read an All Scientific American. What was taking them so damn long? I sluggishly turned my head to look at the wall clock. It was only 10:23 a.m. I had read all 3 magazines in 8 minutes. I remember thinking this was going to be a long day. I was right.
The waiting room had a little bookshelf with some used hardcovers on it. When I stood up to walk to the bookshelf, it felt like my legs barely worked. It's not that they were weak, they were just slow. It took a full minute just to stand up off the couch, and another minute to take 2 steps to the bookcase. I scanned the old books on the shelf and picked out a hearty copy of Moby Dick. My arms had the same problems as my legs. Just reaching 1 foot in front of me to grab the book took a long time. I actually got bored just waiting for my hand to reach the spine of the book.
I slugged back to the couch and collapsed onto it in a slow motion fold that reminded me of the low gravity hubs of astronauts on the moon. I opened Moby Dick, slowly, and began reading. I started with Call Me Ishmael and got as far as Ahab throwing his pipe into the sea, which was all the way to friggin' chapter 30, before they called me back. How are you feeling? The research assistant asked me.
I feel slow.
Actually, it's the other way around. Everything seems slow because you're so fast.
But my arms, my legs, they're moving in slow motion.
Your body seems like it's moving slowly because your brain is fast. Your brain is running 10 or 20 times faster than normal. You are thinking and perceiving reality at an accelerated pace, but your body is still constrained by the laws of biomechanics. Frankly, you're moving much faster than a normal person. She pantomimed a jogging motion. But your brain is running so much faster right now that even your fast walk seems very slow to you.
I thought about my slow motion flop onto the waiting room couch. Even if my muscles had slowed down, my body would still react to gravity the same way. But in the waiting room, I even fell in slow motion. Slow muscles couldn't explain why gravity seemed weaker. My brain was going at warp 10. That's how I managed to read the 3 magazines in the first 30 chapters of Moby Dick in 15 minutes. They ran a series of tests on me. The physical tests were fun. They made me juggle 3 balls, then 4, then 6. I had no problem keeping 6 balls in the air because they seemed to be moving so slowly. It was boring, frankly, waiting for each ball to move through its arc so I could catch it, with my slow-motion hands, and toss it back into the air. They threw Cheerios in the air and I caught them with chopsticks. They dropped a handful of coins and I counted the total value before they hit the ground.
The cognitive tests were less fun, but very illuminating. Finish a 50-word word search, 3 seconds. Solve an intricate maze drawn onto a poster-style paper, 2 seconds. View a slideshow projected at 10 images per second and answer detailed questions about what I saw. 95% correct. They told me I measure over 250 on the NOF scale. Apparently, that's deep into the superhuman range of thinking speeds. Then they sent me home. It will off in a few hours, they said, which will seem like days to you. Try to use the residual effects to get some work done. Catch up on work emails while you're still in high speed mode.
The ride home was horrible. It was only 3 metro stops, and in real-world time it only took about 35 minutes. But in my drug-accelerated hypertime, it felt like days. Days! Just walking out of the medical research suite to the elevator seemed like it took an hour. I sprinted out of the office, willing my legs to push me faster, but the laws of biomechanics held me prisoner. As accelerated as my brain was, I couldn't do anything to make my legs work faster. The huge disconnect between my body and mind made it extremely difficult to judge how and when to slow down, turn, or rotate my body. I had basically turned into a giant slow-motion spaz. I misjudged my speed and rammed into the wall by the elevator button at a pretty good speed. Even though I could see the wall coming at me, I couldn't make my finger, outstretched to hit the elevator button, move away fast enough, and I jammed it against the wall. Hard. The pain was intense. If my brain had been running at regular speed, it probably only would have hurt for 30 seconds or so. But in my accelerated state, the intense pain seemed to last for half an hour. 45 minutes, maybe.
The elevator ride was horrible. It felt like I spent 4 or 5 hours just descending 7 floors, with nothing to look at but the interior of the elevator car. I sprinted to the metro station. I have to admit, this part was almost fun. Every time my body moved at what seemed to me super slow speed, I could still carefully choose how and where to place my feet, swing my arms, and turn my torso. It only took a block or two to getting used to having a brain that ran 24 times faster than my body. Then I basically sprint danced the rest of the way, twisting and juking between people on the sidewalk and dodging moving cars with inches, aka minutes, of clearance.
I spent an hour, in my time frame, descending into the subway and running to the platform. Endless tedium waiting the 6 minutes for the Red Line train to arrive. Although there was more to look at on the metro platform than inside the elevator, it was still intensely boring. I should have stolen that copy of Moby Dick. The Red Line train roared into the station in slow motion. The normally high-pitched squeal of its brakes was frequency shifted by my high-speed mind to a long, low tone, like a monotone tuba solo.
It wasn't just the squealing subway train that was 3 octaves lower than normal. All sound was slow to the point of near inaudibility. Voices were gone, shifted below the threshold frequency of my hearing. I did manage to hear a screaming baby in my subway car. Her shrieks slowed to sound like whale songs. Sharp sounds like a car horns and trucks bouncing over potholes were low, muted roars like distant thunder. Back at the research offices, I could still hear and communicate with the research staff. But now verbal communication with anyone will be impossible. The effects of the drug were still intensifying.
I spent what seemed like days on that fucking Red Line train. Days! Listening to the whale song of the screaming baby and the tuba solo of the brakes. Where ordinary voices were frequency shifted out of my audio range, smells didn't seem to be affected. I never became noseblind to the body odor, the stench of the train's brakes, and the melange of farts and other smells wafting through this metro car. I finally got back to my apartment. Sprinting through my open door and into the front hall at full speed was like a slow, relaxing drift down a lazy river.
I was relieved to be home. At least I had stuff I could do there. I picked up the book I was reading, 100 Years of Solitude, and finished it. Despite turning the pages so quickly that I tore many of them, it seemed like most of the time I spent finishing the book was spent on page turning and not actually reading. 3 minutes had passed since I got home. I tried surfing the internet. My god, it takes a long time for computers to boot these days. But it was too frustratingly slow. Hours, seemingly, to load each new page, and a fraction of a second to read it. 100 articles in my newsfeed read and just 3 more minutes done. I dip into my pile of yet-to-be-read books and finish 2 more. 4 more minutes had passed.
I decided to try to sleep off the remaining effects of the drug. Unfortunately, whatever part of my mind is responsible for perception, the part that's been accelerated to hyperspeeds by the drug isn't the same as the part that governs sleep. Despite being awake for what I perceived as days, my physical brain still thought it was 1:25 p.m. That it was not ready for sleep. Nevertheless, I tried to sleep. I walked to my bathroom, a slow 45-minute drift through my apartment, and flung myself into bed, lazily falling like a feather onto the mattress. I closed my eyes and lay there for hours and hours, 10 minutes of reality time, before giving up. Sleep would not come. I was facing what was going to feel like days or maybe even weeks of being trapped like in a slow-motion prison. So I took an Ambien.
The sensation of the pill and the splash of water I used to swallow it sliding my throat was sickening. A lump that blocked my breathing, moving like a slug down my esophagus. I read a book. 10 minutes had passed. I read another. 18 minutes since I took the Ambien. I threw the book across the room in disgust at my situation. The book slowly pirouetted and spun through the air, like a leaf blowing in a breeze. It hit the wall with a long, faint rumble, the only sound I had heard for what seemed like hours, then drifted to the floor like a flip-flop sinking in a swimming pool. The force
of
Oh yeah, sorry, it was your turn.
How dare you? I'm offended. Okay. The force of gravity hadn't changed since I took the pill. The laws of physics were the same. It's just my perception of time that had gone wackadoo. This meant that I could use the speed things seemed to follow as a way of judging the effects of the drug. Based on how long it took the book to drift to the floor, I estimated the effects of the drug were still intensifying. I read a magazine. I turned on the television. I clearly saw each frame of video like I was watching a slideshow. Frustrated, I turned the television off.
I read some more. The first 2 books of Churchill's A History of the English-Speaking Peoples. Not exactly a light read. Frankly, I hated it. But given the hours of tedium it will take to go get another book off my bookshelf, just sitting on the couch and reading Churchill was better. Or at least less worse. It had now been 35 minutes since I took the Ambien. I lay down on the couch and closed my eyes. Time passed. I inhaled, an hours-long process. Time passed. I exhaled for more hours. Sleep will not come.
I needed a new plan. I decided to go back to the offices where they gave me the drug. Maybe they would have something that could counteract its effects, or at least something to knock me out until it wore off. I exited my apartment as fast as possible, taking hours in my time frame to do so. I didn't even bother locking the door. It would have taken too long.
Down the stairs, it's faster than the elevator if you run. Through the lobby, out the front door and onto the street. These few things felt like a long day at the office. Sprinting down the street, dancing and waving between pedestrians with what must have looked to them superhuman dexterity. Down the first flight of stairs at the metro, across the landing, another hour. Then onto the second flight of stairs. That's when the Ambien hit me.
The Ambien didn't make me sleepy. Not at all. Instead, it must have had a severe cross-reaction with the experimental drug I took this morning. I was bounding down the second flight of stairs, moving in slow motion, but still making perceptible progress. Then, wham! Everything stopped. The dull roar of the street and metro noise ceased, replaced by the most perfect silence I've ever experienced. My downwards motion seemed to completely freeze. Before the Ambien kicked in, my perception of time was maybe a few hundred times slower than real time. After the Ambien took effect, time moved thousands of times slower. Every second seemed like days to me. Even just moving my eyes to focus on a new point was like an impossibly slow scroll across my visual field.
Over the course of the afternoon, I learned how to walk, run, and jump when my mind ran hundreds of times faster than my body. But with another 4 or 5 orders of magnitude of slowdown caused by the ambient, body control was almost impossible. I fell on the stairs. Even though I was all but frozen in mid-step, controlling my muscles was impossible. I commanded my foot forwards for hours, then backwards for hours more when it seemed like I would miss the next step. Hours attempting to adjust the angle of my ankle, then readjusting when it felt wrong. Despite these efforts, I rolled my ankle on the next step. The pain wasn't at all mitigated by the slowness. Hours of increasing strain on my bent ankle. The nerve signals that send pain to the brain must work differently than the nerves in my ear. Sonic energy was spread out over time, diluted until it was imperceptible. Pain flowed into my brain undiluted by the change in my perception of time. Hours and hours of increasing weight on my torn ankle turned into hours of increasing pain upon increasing pain.
I pitched forward, my high-speed mind completely unable to control my low-speed body. I drifted downwards for days, managing to rotate my torso enough to keep my head from impacting the ground first. I eventually landed on my right shoulder. At first the impact wasn't even noticeable, and I felt a slight pressure in my shoulder as it came in contact with the ground. The pressure grew, bringing increasing pain for hour upon hour. My shoulder finally gave out, popping out of its socket with an endless, sickening tug. I came to a stop days later, crumpled onto the ground, staring at the ceiling. The pain in my shoulder still screaming with the intensity of a fresh, violent injury. I had plenty of time to think during that fall. If every second seemed like days to me, then each minute of real-world time would be like years. Even if the drug cleared out of my system in the next 2 or 3 hours, this nightmare would seem like to last centuries. By the time I hit the ground, I had a plan. I would somehow get to the platform and throw myself in front of a train.
I twisted onto my hands and knees, days of my dislocated shoulder crying for relief. I misjudged my rotation and rolled onto my back. I tried again, collapsing onto my face as I tried to figure out how to control a body that moved slower than grass grew. Weeks of effort were finally rewarded with success. I stabilized on my hands and knees. If just getting on all fours was this difficult, I figured that walking or running was completely out of the question. So I crawled. I crawled through the metro tunnel. The dumb lungs on the faces in the crowd lingered on me for weeks. I crawled under the turnstile and onto the escalator.
The escalator spilled the rush hour crowd onto the platform at the same speed a glacier spills ice into the sea. I looked out over the crowded platform during my interminable downward ride. The train status sign said the next train wouldn't arrive for 20 minutes. 20 minutes was like a year to me. I'd have to spend a year on the metro platform waiting to die. I crawled off the escalator, enduring days of stupid expressions and on the commuters' faces. I crawled a few feet to a concrete bench and curled up next to it, trying to find a position to lessen the pain in my shoulder. Then my problem with time got worse. Impossibly worse.
The massive slowdown on the stairs was just the beginning of the interaction between the experimental drug and the ambient. It fully hit me while I was curled up by the bench. I blinked. Years of darkness followed. Sound was already gone, and with my blink, sight was gone as well. All that existed was the pain from my fall. My hyper-accelerated mind wasted no time compensating for the lack of sensory input. Voices spoke to me. They sang to me in languages that never existed. Patterns and faces and colors came and went in my mind's eye. I recalled my whole life and imagined living another. I forgot English. I settled into a profound despair. I spoke to God. I became God. I imagined a new universe and brought it to life with my thoughts. Then I did it all again. And again.
My eyes opened with geologic slowness. A faint glow. Weeks. A slit of light. Weeks. A narrow view of the metro platform. Ankles of the commuters near me and an advertisement on the opposite wall. I extracted my phone from my pocket. A project that spanned decades. How can I even explain the boredom? The pain in my shoulder is nothing compared to the boredom. Every thought I can think, I have thought hundreds of times already. The view of ankles and advertisements never changes. Never. The boredom is so intense it's tangible, like a solid object of metal and stone wedged into my skull. Inescapable.
What are my options? If I crawl and fall into the tracks without an oncoming train to crush me, I won't die. I'll experience even more pain from the 4-foot fall, but I'll most likely be rescued by some do-gooder on the platform and unable to act when the train finally does arrive. My suffering in that scenario will be endless. So I wait for the train, so I can throw myself under it. When it finally hits me, I will experience the pain of being ripped to pieces for centuries until finally the light of life leaves my brain and my experience ends.
I've lived hundreds of lifespans at the foot of this bench. I am far older in spirit than any human who has ever lived. Most of my life experience has been a snapshot of pain huddled on the floor of a subway platform with an unchanging view of ankles and advertisements. This post is my plan B, my Hail Mary, my long shot. I spent lifetimes typing and posting this message in the hope that someone will read it and become convinced that my suffering must end. Someone on this platform right now. Someone who will find the man curled under the bench, the man who crawled down the escalator, and kill him as quickly as possible. A bullet to the temple. If you're armed and at the Glenmont Metro, please shoot me.
Damn. That does not sound like a fun time at all.
Yeah.
Oh, damn.
And just think, in, say, Cyberpunk 2020, or 2020 and 2077, a Karenazov, which constantly accelerates your perception of time, is basically the same thing as, like, the very beginning when he, like, just took the drug. Permanently.
Ah.
Everything is always in slow motion, and people still do that to themselves.
Yeah. Whew.
I'm just looking at one of the comments. The crazy thing is that I live 10 minutes from the actual Glenmont Metro station in Maryland. Good soldiers follow orders.
Oh no. Man.
I mean, it's very descriptive. It does
Yeah.
drag on a little bit, but also, like, literally he's describing experience and experiencing, like, I don't know, astronomic stretches of time towards the end. So I feel like it's warranted.
Yeah, I feel like it fits, it fits with what he's going through.
Yeah.
That was great too.
It sure is going through it. Literally, it's not even really something that you can comprehend, and yet trying to is, like, horrifying.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it was really good too. It's not as like, like creepy as some of the others, as in the fact of, like, like they make you feel like sort of freak out sometimes. but
Yeah.
it's good.
Yeah, it's a bit more fridge horror.
Yeah. It's very well done.
Yeah. Something that kind of demands that you sit and think about it for a little bit. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's it shit, man. He sure is going through it.
Yeah. God damn.
Poor bastard, never stood a chance.
Mm-hmm.
Especially not to the foul clutches of Ambien.
Never makes medicine, guys.
Yeah. The fucking apparently.
What we've learned from this: do not mix things. Do not mix medication.
Alright, I am starting to get a little bit eepy, so I'm gonna
Me
cut out
too.
2 of them.
All
So we'll
right.
just do this next one and then the final one, which is the special one that I want you to read.
Okay.
But this one is along the same lines we have been, but it's pretty short.
All right. 2009. Sheesh.
Mm-hmm.
Just let me. I'm gonna leave you guys with a beautiful picture. I need to go get more water. I didn't bring enough.
The beautiful picture is me.
Yeah.
I meanwhile still have like half of my water because I have not been hydrating properly, as my occasionally cracking voice might have attested to. Remember to hydrate, kids. We wiggly in this bitch.
Actually, I really need to go to the bathroom too, so I'll leave you in charge for a minute or two.
Oh, don't do that. All right, fellas, you know the drill now. Time to burn everything down. Oh, I need to stretch. Holy shit. No, not this fox sitting very comfortable around a campfire with its friends. No. Oh my god. That fucking name. I can't handle it. Edge. Wait. Is that part of the... Huh. Interesting. Kudoko's chat overlay is it currently experiencing an ad break. I don't know how to feel about that. I don't know if anyone else saw that. Somebody please clip that. Or something. I need some kind of proof to say I wasn't just imagining that. That I had add 1 of 2 on my fucking forehead. Oh, is that what Adge does? Okay. I didn't realize that was an actual thing. Alright, well in that case don't clip that. Man. I can't believe it's been 20,000 years of subjective time since Kudoko fucking died. One day. One day she'll be back. Kill me. Alright. I really don't... Oh, wait, hold on. Alright. This is very important. I'm glad that the soundboard works in private calls. Although I am a little sad that I don't have Nitro, so I can't spam stupid shit from my servers at you guys. That would be definitely the best possible way to pass the time. I'm trying to find something, and it is not being found. What a terrible experience. Now I'm trapped here with the rest of you. Oh.
I return.
Oh my god. She's alive.
I am alive. What happened?
Just me slowly losing my mind.
It's fine. That's just every day.
Okay, yeah, but come on.
Yeah, sorry I took a minute extra. I was looking for my cat.
How dare you? Stuck in an ad break.
Oh no. But yeah.
I didn't realize that there was a better Twitch or whatever emote to like simulate an ad break message. So it looked to me like your chat overlay was experiencing an ad break.
Oh. But anyway, I got my water, I know where my cat is. So shall we go?
Well, I mean, a full glass of water might be slightly overkill, but it's fine.
It's fine. It's just that I didn't feel it the first time, because usually my cat climbs onto the desk and tries to drink the water. So I feel it until like half, so like she can't get her head all the way in. But since like she's not coming now, I just feel it now.
Well, now that you filled it, she knows it's her time.
No, she's very comfy in her corner. Thank you for the eye read, by the way, Prinny. She's very comfy in her corner behind the couch.
Yeah, fair enough.
Anyway, whose turn is it to start?
Technically yours, but...
Alright. But what?
Well, I mean, the last one you'll be reading by yourself, so it's up to you.
That's fine. Alright. This one is called Gateway of the Mind. In 1983, a team of deeply pious scientists conducted a radical experiment in an undisclosed facility. The scientists had theorized that a human without access to any senses or ways to perceive a stimuli would be able to perceive the presence of God. They believed that the five senses clouded our awareness of eternity, and without them, a human could actually establish contact with God by thought. An elderly man who claimed to have nothing left to live for was the only test subject to volunteer. To purge him of all his senses, the scientists performed a complex operation in which every sensory nerve connection to the brain was surgically severed. Although the test subject retained full muscular function, he could not see, hear, taste, smell, or feel. With no possible way to communicate with or even sense the outside world, he was alone with his thoughts. Scientists monitored him as he spoke aloud about his state of mind in jumbled, slurred sentences that he couldn't even hear. After 4 days, The man claimed to be hearing hushed, unintelligible voices in his head. Assuming it was an onset of psychosis, the scientist paid little attention to the man's concerns.
2 days later, the man cried that he could hear his dead wife speaking with him, and even more, he could communicate back. The scientists were intrigued, but not convinced until the subject started naming dead relatives of the scientists. He repeated personal information to the scientists that only their dead spouses and parents would have known. At this point, a sizable portion of the scientists left the study. After a week of conversing with the deceased through his thoughts, the subject became distressed, saying the voices were overwhelming. In every waking moment, his consciousness was bombarded by hundreds of voices that refused to leave him alone. He frequently threw himself against the wall, trying to elicit a pain response. He begged the scientists for sedatives, so he could escape the voices by sleeping. This tactic worked for 3 days until he started having severe night terrors. The subject repeatedly said that he could see and hear the deceased in his dreams.
Only a day later, the subject began to scream and claw at his non-functional eyes, hoping to sense something in the physical world. The hysterical subject now said the voices of the dead were deafening and hostile, speaking of hell and the end of the world. At one point, he yelled, "No heaven, no forgiveness," for 5 hours straight. He continually begged to be killed, but the scientists were convinced that he was close to establishing contact with God. After another day, the subject could no longer form coherent sentences. Seemingly mad, he started to bite off chunks of flesh from his arm. The scientists rushed into the test chamber and restrained him to a table so he could not kill himself. After a few hours of being tied down, the subject halted his struggling and screaming. He stared blankly at the ceiling as teardrops silently streaked across his face. For 2 weeks, the subject had to be manually rehydrated due to the constant crying. Eventually, he turned his head and, despite his blindness, made focused eye contact with the scientist for the first time in the study. He whispered, "I have spoken with God, and he has abandoned us," and his vital signs stopped. There was no apparent cause of death. Ooh. Spoopy.
A certified hood classic.
Yeah.
Like actually, it's from 09.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is...
Certified classic.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty straight and to the point, but it
Yeah.
also, it doesn't overstay its welcome
Yeah, just
with its concepts.
Short and creepy. Can't say short and sweet, but...
Oh no, it's very sweet. I mean, they got him in contact with God. I'd say that's a pretty good ending. They accomplished what they came for.
Woo, success! Yay!
A winner!
Woo!
Alright.
And what
So
is this last one you want to show me?
Yeah. This is the absolute most creepy and horrifying creepypasta you will ever read.
Alright, let's see. And you want me to read this by myself?
Yes. Anyone who is an old denizen of the internet, I'm sure, will recognize this.
2008? Wow, this is from centuries ago. 1 minute of reading. Ah, I see. Alright. I see. Okay, so basically it's like this. You're at a friend's house for like the night or whatever, and then you guys are making out on the couch. Yeah! And then like, her dad calls on the phone and says, "No, she likes it more if you use the other hand." Yeah! And you're like, "Oh dude, your dad is trying to give me advice on how to diddle you." And then she's like, "I don't have a dad," or whatever. But what? Who was phone? Also, so you're with your honey and you're making out when the phone rings. You answer and the voice is, "What are you doing with my daughter?" You tell your girl and she says, "My dad is dead." Then who was phone?
And then who
Perfect.
was phone?
Great. 10 out of 10. Perfect way to end this. Who was phone?
Truly, this is the mystery of our generation. Who was phone?
Truly, this is the creepypasta of all creepypastas. Nothing can compare.
This is actually no joke. What originally got me into reading creepypastas?
What?
So I didn't know what a creepypasta was, but in high school, my fucking dumbass friend showed me this stupid fucking. It's not even a story. It's just a shit post.
Yeah. Who was phone?
Who was phone? And from there it progressed to like Slenderman and what have you, but it just it's so dumb. I love it.
And the way it's written also, like, perfect. Perfect.
Wasn't
Beautiful.
even bothered by the idea that dad knows what she likes.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it wasn't dad though. You don't know who it was.
Oh yeah. We don't know who was phone.
And you never will.
Who was phone?
Oh, I hate my stupid sense of humor sometimes.
No, this was perfect, you know, like perfect way to decompress. After all-
Decompress, bro, this was horrifying. I don't know how you are laughing.
Oh yeah, I'm not sorry, my bad, you're right,
Yeah, I'm so scared right now.
I am. Wait, I have a. Where's my thing? I am terrified.
Yeah, I can tell. I can tell. And that was a harrowing experience for you.
Yeah. Totally.
Honest-
Absolutely. Insane.
Honestly, the scariest part of that whole thing is the grammar.
True.
I do like how it says estimated reading time less than 1 minute, though.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, it's absolutely correct.
Although, actually, no, I think you took at least a minute on it. So, I mean, congratulations.
Woo! I'm guessing the estimated reading time is for like just reading in your mind.
Yeah, probably. But, you know, I'm still going to judge you.
Alright, that's fine.
I can tell that bothers you greatly.
Oh yeah, don't know how I will live with this.
Kuruko will never financially recover from this. Oh, I'm dying.
Me too, but this was fun.
Yeah, this was really good. I don't know if I will be able to find a similar amount of actually good creepypastas, but I'm up to trying this again maybe next year or something.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm down.
I'll need that much time to find something as horrifying as Who Was Phone.
Real, like it's hard to surpass this.
Yeah,
You have your work cut out for you.
It's a tough act to follow.
Or maybe depending on how things go, we maybe will have people try to write creepypastas and submit them, and then we judge them publicly on a stream.
I'm willing to do that. I'm absolutely down for that.
Yeah.
Although, whether the audience's writing capabilities are up to the task is possibly questionable. Well,
Yeah.
I know Coco writes, though.
Yeah, she does.
Yeah, well, let's poke Coco to write creepypastas until she does, and then judge her on stream.
But yeah, I mean, that's an idea. As I said, depending on how things go from here to next year, whether it can be done or not.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure given a year's time, during which I will definitely be diligently and constantly looking for more material. Promise. Uh, I would be able to find enough material for another stream of roughly this length. Because we did only get through 8 stories. Some longer, some shorter, but I had, just based off of the estimated reading time, technically that was about an hour and a half, maybe actually a little less of prepared material. So, no, I think it could work.
Yeah. You did great. I love them. Very nice picks, especially this last one.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I was real proud of this one. Finish it off with an AI written copy pasta and see if it's better than
Yeah.
chat's. Are you sure that you want to do that? Because I'm pretty sure that it will be.
Wow.
I'm willing to put money down on that one, actually.
I mean, I could always, when the time comes, I could always just throw up 2 into the wild and just let anyone submit things.
Yeah,
And
that's true.
see how many we get.
Yeah, and then should we have enough for a stream, we'll have an AI write one and then
Yeah.
mix it up with the rest and see if we can tell which one is which.
Sounds good. Sounds like a plan.
Oh yeah. It's all coming together.
But anyway, I need to eat. I need to actually wake up early tomorrow to drive my sister.
Sounds awful.
Yeah, awful. But I'll survive. I'll survive somehow.
Well, it's fine. Kudusis is cool, so we can accept this depriving of our fox overlord this time.
It's fine. I'll be back tomorrow on YouTube for Honkai. So
Oh no, she's honking.
yeah, we're going from creepypastas to cringe because the early writing is like, oh god. The gameplay is really fun though.
See if Maple's horror movie love will help her make one for you. Honestly, I'm pretty sure that Maple wouldn't even be able to get through writing her own horror before having to give up.
I mean, Maple's really good with. I mean, kind of.
Don't you fucking lie to me. I've seen
She's
those.
No, she's just like awful with it when it comes to video games. But like, she loves going to haunted houses and like watching
That's a
horror
bit odd.
movies. But like horror games, just like that's just like a big no-no for her.
I mean, I want to say it makes sense because horror games, at least good ones, are kind of inherently more scary than horror movies just because you're the one in control of what's happening. And so it's happening to you. But then she's also, I don't know, maybe she hasn't gone to like some of the like crazy, scary horror or haunted houses, but then there's not actually a lot of those, so.
I mean, I doubt it because like, I mean, I doubt she hasn't gone to one of those because like she goes to like literally every single one she can find every single year.
I was gonna say some of them are like really expensive, but I've seen her spending habits. I don't think that would be much of an issue for her.
Yeah, so we're like opposite on that end. Like, haunted houses usually do freak me out more than games. Like being there physically is just like, it's just the darkness, the not being able to see, just like kills me on the spot. And apparently she just got like head first into them. While games for me are the opposite, you know. The game has like a good atmosphere and whatever, this is what happens to me with games. If they have like a good atmosphere and stuff, like I'll be freaked out at the start, but as I go on, as I move on, I just like get less and less scared.
That's pretty typical of horror games, to be totally honest with you. They have to, like, keep things pretty fresh to actually keep you on your toes. Because, like, once you, like, say, like, die the first time, usually the stakes kind of drop dramatically.
Yeah, I mean that's how we are, I guess. But there's people that apparently it's not like that, like Maple.
So what you're saying is, if you two went to a haunted house, the person hiding behind the other would be in the correct direction.
Yeah.
I need to scab about this.
Like a real haunted house, yeah. Video game horror, like I'm taking the wheel.
The duality of men's daughters.
Mm-hmm. Horror movies are a hit or miss for me because they used to scare me a lot. But I think I got to a point where I've experienced like a lot of horror media. So it's all like very predictable to me. So I'm always looking forward to like, oh, like now this is gonna happen, or like this could happen now. So I'm always kind of expecting what's going to happen. So unless the movie leaves me like really fucked up, like psychologically, like psychological horror usually. That's why I prefer psychological horror. Funnily enough, because I mean it does kind of get to me on like in my mind and my brain. It just kind of stucks. Just kind of sticks there for the night.
Yeah, the classic of fridge horror.
Mm-hmm.
Really only impacts you once you have a moment to think about it.
Yeah. So yeah.
Just before we go, I do have to ask, just because it's like probably my favorite horror movie. Have you ever seen It Follows?
I don't think so.
Alright. Well, you should probably... I think you should consider watching it. Ideally, well, I mean, some parts of it are a little silly and cliche, but ideally watch it with, like, either, I guess, headphones or, like, really good surround sound would be the preferred experience, I think, because holy shit, the sound design in that movie is so good.
Oh, maybe. We'll see about it.
I recommend it. Anyhow, it's time to eat.
It's time to eat, indeed. So yeah, thank you everyone for coming. Hope you enjoyed the creepy stories, and hope that you can have a good night's sleep afterwards.
The spoopy stories for crappy kids. It's me. I'm the crappy kid.
Yes. Just look at this choice.
Yeah. I mean, you can pretty easily tell. Not only am I beautiful, but I'm also a crappy kid.
But yeah, and thank you for picking all these for me to experience, because I, like, yeah.
Yeah, of course. I'm happy to share my, maybe not quite love, but enjoyment of these, yeah, usually pretty good and sometimes fairly silly stories.
Woohoo! Okay, anyway, I shall leave for now to eat. So yeah, thank you again, and I'll see you guys tomorrow maybe, if not some other time. If you want more spoopy stuff on Monday, there are high chances that I'll be playing Man of Medan with my sister. Like through the whole game. So yeah, good night everyone. Bye bye. Otsuru.